Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance, weekly scrap number 134, Live Oak, Texas, live on location with an unbelievable panel this evening. Today. Yes. Woo! We're leading off Howard Rhinewalt, Jacob Johnson, the beginning of 7 unbelievable guests as we kick this thing off into high gear. People are logging in on Facebook. We got the hype going on. We got the live audience. We've got the questions. So here's how it works. To integrate the two audiences, go to slido.com, SLIDO.com. Use the code 215-524, 215-524. I'll put it in the chat. 215-524, slido.com. There you can type in your questions. If you want a question for a specific panel member, make sure to mention that. Give your questions to the panel. And with that, we're going to kick it off with a soft toss. How's that sound? Just a nice soft toss. Right here, latest anonymous question. Howard, what are some challenges of being a young fire chief?
Waking up every morning. It's difficult because, you have members in your department that have been there longer than you have. They have more tenure than you have. So the challenge is just don't get your ego out of check and make sure that you use the people to their strengths and know what their weaknesses are and understand that you have people in your department that you can lean on. Just because you're the fire chief doesn't mean you have the answers to everything.
Beautiful.
You need a hat, bro.
I need a hat?
You need a hat.
Is he getting some shine?
Yeah.
Got some shine going on?
Well, every podcast you have a hat.
We are. Lots of questions coming in. People, and keep this in mind, audience, whether you're here or whether you're on Facebook, you can vote for your favorite questions as they come up. So please do so because that will help us get through all of the questions and find the best ones. And we're going down here. There was one about rookies, setting up rookies for success, and I wanted to throw it at both of you. This one came from John Perry, and he asks, do we do enough to help young firefighters be excellent subordinates, to know the right time or place for growth and development, not just what they want in that moment? Now kick it off with you, Jacob.
Do we do enough? No, I don't think we do enough at all. I think that's actually where we suffer as a fire service. I think that we just have a lot of expectations, and when I say that we have expectations that the fire school that they went to is teaching them how to be a rookie, but they're not. I've said it. I've taught at fire schools. Fire schools are killing the American fire service by the lack of teaching and the lack of ability that they're providing to these students. And so when they hit the station, I think the students think that they're coming to a fire department where they can demand things rather than ask questions, and so then it sets us up for failure because we take offense to it. So what we need to do is be able to explain to them the why. We need to be able to take them in and understand the way that they learn, so that we can instill the love for the job and the passion of the fire service within their heart, right? And we'll talk about it a lot tomorrow, but we want to get into the inner workings of that rookie. We want to get into what grinds their gears, and we want to control those gears by how we teach them. And I think that's what we're doing is we're not setting them up because we're not getting inside their gears and what actually makes them successful.
Solid. Howard, what do you want to add?
Are we setting them up for failure to be subordinates?
So to be followers.
Yeah, because I think as a majority in the fire service, we do a horrible job of being subordinates. We've got to do a better job of setting the example and being a better subordinate to teach somebody how to be a subordinate. You can't sit and bitch every day about what your fire department's doing in front of somebody that you want to listen to you. So
nice.
That's my take on it. If you want somebody to be a good subordinate, you need to be a good subordinate.
Love it. And hey, you guys, it's okay to clap when he does a good answer.
Boom.
Yeah. We do not have to be quiet.
I mean, even me as the fire chief, if I'm doing a poor job, Kyle knows I got 5 people who are in charge of me, and if I'm just running around talking how shitty they are, then what do I expect from my fire department when they're looking towards me as their leader? They're going to be shitty subordinates too. So I'm lucky to have 5 good bosses, and if I didn't, I don't know where I would stand, but we just have to do a better job of being subordinates ourselves and setting that example. You can't demand something you're not willing to do yourself.
Beautiful. No, it's awesome. And here's what I did. As I moved this laptop closer to me, I hit the power button and logged myself
Todd,
out.
we need your password.
That's a beautiful profile picture.
Look at how sexy the profile picture
His
is.
profile picture is himself.
That's it. That was it. I hit the button when I slid it. All right, beautiful. Howard. No, wait, I already asked that question. Let me mark that one as answered. I had one coming from one of your teacher instructor buddies here.
Uh-oh.
I'm not even sure I want to throw it at you. Howard, I heard the rumor that you were on Mad TV.
Oh, God.
Okay, take out your phones and Google, let's get this out of the way. And Google Alfred E. Newman. Everybody good?
Beautiful. All right. Cycling through. Again, get your questions in. Type them in on Slido. If you want your answers from these people, get them in. This one comes from Kyle Condiff. I'll start off with Howard and then kick it to Jacob. And this is a tough question. I'm not going to lie. What can you do when you have a leader, be it a chief, a captain, or a lieutenant, who is a micromanager?
That's a tough one. I would say go sit with that person and ask what their expectations are and write them down. And then at a point when they're micromanaging that doesn't fit their own narrative, call them on their bullshit. Write down their expectations and hold them accountable to what their expectations are. If they're going to micromanage you and hold you accountable to what they are saying their expectations are, get it out up front in a meeting and hold them accountable to what they say that their expectations are. That's what I would do. And, you know, there's just micromanagers out there you can't control, and sometimes you just need to switch where you're working. It is what it is. It's not going to change. It's not going to be any different than what it is and what you're desiring. There's plenty of fire departments out there that are what you're desiring, and East Montgomery County ain't too far from here, so we're hiring right now.
Jacob, what do you want to add to that?
So for me, I look at it as why are they being a micromanager, right? So to me, there's two reasons why they're a micromanager. One, because they're afraid. So they're a fearful leader. They're a fearful manager. Or two, they're not competent, in the words of Corley here, right? So they don't know their job. So the only way that they can make themselves feel like they know it is to micromanage you or to put pressure on you to perform a certain way. So for me, it's pretty simple, right? You have a micromanager as a leader. You go to them, exactly like Chief Rhinewalt said. You ask their expectations, and then you meet them 100%. If they want to know the reason why for every little thing, you give it to them, because 99% of the time they're going to tell you yes, right? So go to them, say, I want to perform this, or I want to do this, or I want to introduce this class, and here's why. Boom, boom, boom. And as long as you play within their sandbox, they're going to give you the yes. And 80% of the time, I'll say, the yes is going to be better for the fire service because you as an individual are better for the fire service. So, you know, don't play into the fear games. Don't play into the non-competent game. Be competent, be fearless, but smart, and play within their sandbox. Give them the reasons why. Perform to the expectations, like Chief said, that they want you to perform to, and 80% of the time they're going to tell you yes, and you move forward and make your fire department better.
Beautiful.
Does anybody want to own that question? Who asked that question?
There's Kyle, yeah. He put his name on it.
Are you talking about a specific person? Yes. Have they been at the fire department longer than you? Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you're probably going to outlast them. So my opinion on that is always, I've been here less than you, I'll be here longer than you, so I can change the winds in the sea. You see what I'm saying? So
Nice, nice.
Just outlast them, man. Have a good attitude about it and outlast them, and you can be that change agent that your organization needs. Another one I like about fire chiefs, and I'm speaking from a position of a fire chief, is typically in your organization, you've been there longer than your fire chief when he gets there, and you'll be there longer than your fire chief when they leave.
Absolutely.
So just hold it out, man, and outlast them, and then you be that change agent.
And if you can't, Pearland's hiring.
So is East County, and they're better. We make a lot more fires.
We make the same.
We got the recruitment going on. No, and I love it, but 100%, if you're being micromanaged, if they're trying to pile on you with projects or trying to kill you or whatever it is they're trying to do, just kill them with competence. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, because there's nothing they can do.
Is there any micromanagers in the room? No. Probably not. Probably not. No. Because no one here is afraid to make a mistake. No one here is afraid to misspeak. I make mistakes all the time. You're going to hear about them all day tomorrow. I am a scarred-filled leader, but I'm here, right? All of you are here because you want to learn something. You're not micromanagers. You're here to be better. And so when you go to those micromanagers, when you work for those micromanagers, do not let their fear dictate your career. Put in the reps, have your competence, have your confidence, work within their sandbox, and at the end of the day, you're going to push your fire department forward. Do not let anybody control your career, your passion, or your discipline to this job.
Nice. Man, there's good questions coming in. Oh man,
Mo Daddy getting on that pizza, bro.
I'm gonna go to a tactics type question here to throw at you guys, rather than just stay in the leadership wheelhouse. We'll spread it around. What is your opinion as a fire chief and a battalion about using CAFs for residential fires?
Calves do not make grabs. They sucks.
The bottom line on CAFs is the average volume for CAFs is 100 gallons a minute when you set it properly. You cannot extinguish fires in a residential setting at 100 gallons a minute and something happen and you be in the right. We had a line of duty death in our area and we were using CAFs. Y'all just look, I'm not going to go into detail, look up the Gary Staley fire and you'll see why I do not like CAFs. If you set it properly, it's 100 gallons a minute. That's not enough. I'll tell you, you can put out fire with a lot less volume than you think, but I do not want to push that to the masses and say that that's okay, because we need around 150 gallons a minute for a residential structure fire, and you're flowing 100 when you utilize CAFs properly. And I don't know how many of you have used CAFs, but when you use CAFs, you'll see the jerking in the line if you don't set it properly because there's too much air versus the water. CAFs is an ISO bullshit ploy. That's all it is. And if you want, I'll send you a survey I did on Facebook to show you that ISO has nothing to do with people's insurance ratings. It doesn't. They look at total loss in the area for a zip code, and they set the insurance ratings at that. It has nothing to do with ISO. You need one CAFs unit on your structure fire to get points. So if you're looking for points, go ahead. By all means, do what you need to do. But don't put CAFs on the truck for tactical advantage. It does not work.
I'm just catching up. Go ahead.
There's Mark Cummings on there.
Well, and I can't say anything. I can't say anything more than that. I mean, and to compliment, Chief Rhinewalt's comment there, Pearland is an ISO 1 rating, and we do not have CAFs. We just have some hard-charging, good firemen who limit the loss of property because they get in there and they do their job, right? I'm surrounded by 139 badass firemen in the Pearland Fire Department, and we have an ISO 1 of 1, and we have no CAFs, right? I have not seen CAFs work to the benefit. I've only seen it work to the negative. And if you run CAFs out there, I'm not knocking on you because I honestly do not have enough education about it. But what I can tell you from personal experience, when I got to Pearland, it was a CAFs department, and fires did not go out the way that they were supposed to go out. And when we turned that air compressor off, they went out, right? And so for me, CAFs is a no-go. It doesn't add any tactical advantage, like Chief said. And, firemen been putting out fire with water for a lot more years than we've been putting it out with foam and air. So let's just stick to the high-flow GPM and let's put fire out.
I got a little education on it. And I'll say if you're going to put 50 gallons of foam on your truck, just save the room and put 50 more gallons of water. That'll fix your problem.
All right. Starting with Jacob. I love this question. Anonymous. Mr. Anonymous sent in, dealing with the mutts, question mark, your opinion, comma, throat punch.
Who has that?
Anonymous.
Anonymous. So, well, I'll tell you this. You know, if you're a mutt, you're a mutt, right? Oh, look at this, man. Look at all the mutts don't scrap shirts we got here tonight.
Mutts don't scrap.
Right? Look at that.
No mutts.
Mutts aren't scrapping. So here's the thing, right? Like, if you're doing something good, you're going to have haters, 100%. If you're doing something good, make sure you have the right intentions, right? If I've learned one thing over the last, few years, is that no one can tell you your intentions. No one is you. No one knows you. Your intentions are to be a good human being. They should be. And if you're not, then you don't deserve to be in this room. Your intention should be to be a good fireman that's better for the fire service, that's better for the guys that come after you, because the guys before you gave a damn. And if you don't give a damn, you don't deserve to be in this room tonight. And for me, the mutts are always going to bark, right? I mean, you said it perfect today. Like, we don't even have to answer this. Just put up the lion picture, right? The lion is sleeping while the sheep are watching, right? I sleep well at night. I have a lot of haters. Chief Rhinewalt, I'm sure, has a lot of haters. Everybody in this room, because you're here tonight, probably has a lot of haters. Live Oak Fire Department is hosting this conference. They probably have haters in their fire department about this conference, right? But at the end of the day, you're here, they're not. Right? You're here, they're not. And what it means is you're trying to become better, and they're not. You're trying to extend your career and accomplish the goals that you set forth, and they're not. When I was a rookie, I said, all I want to do is retire and be known as a good fireman. Not a great fireman, not an excellent fireman, not, anything other than just, I want that guy on every job. And so you're here because you want to be that guy or that girl on every job. And that's what needs to be applauded here tonight. Not us, not anything else, but that you're here to get better and to love the job and to instill your passion and grow it within yourself so you can go back to those mutts and kill them with what, Corley?
Oh, yeah, that competence, baby.
Competence.
Hell yeah.
Hey, I'm a huge rap fan, and I'll just tell you like Drake said. Bugatti's got 2 seats for a reason, because when you start focusing on your vision, you'll lose a lot of friends. A bus has got 30 seats. So I'll leave it at that. You ain't going to have a bunch of friends when you're doing the right thing.
Kevin Gates, dear God.
Nice. All right. There you go. I didn't know if we could be quoting Drake this evening, but we did it. We got it in. There's a Kyle question. I'm just looking through. There's a lot of questions coming in. And let me say this real quick. Everybody out here live and everybody on Facebook live, please vote on the questions you want answered so that they get to the top, because as more questions come in, it's hard to see them. So make sure you're giving them the thumbs up if you want to get them answered, especially, and make sure you're putting in who you want answering them. All right, I saw one here before we kick Jacob off the stage. Kyle. All right, let's talk about officers and double standards. This one also comes from that same person, Anonymous.
Anonymous is legit.
Anonymous is on fire. Let's talk about officers and double standards that do what I say, not as I do. So, Howard, leading off with you. I don't know what more rap quotes you got in your repertoire.
Who asked this one? I know you put anonymous. I want to know. Is your name anonymous? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Is there a reason you asked this question?
He's got that bendy screen.
I like intent better than just.
Yeah, there's just been some things that have been kind of going on within our department recently between some officers. So, just wanted to kind of get your take.
I never really judge a situation based off someone else and what they're saying and not doing. I try to judge it based off what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's a hard question for me because I don't give a shit about somebody who's telling me to do something and they don't do it. So I really don't have an opinion on it. So that's a hard one to answer for me because I don't care about those people. I care so little they don't even come into my mind. this do as I say, not as I do, it's just so much bullshit. Like, it's hypocrisy, right? So I wouldn't even worry about it. Like, I wanted to know who asked that question because I want to tell you directly, don't even concern yourself with that. Worry about yourself, stay in your own lane, and don't worry about what people are telling you to do and then they're not doing themselves. Why would we even worry about that person? That just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for that. I don't even concern myself with those people.
Well, the big part I will say is you are unique in the fact that you are plugged in and have 5 bugles. So there's a lot of people you cannot give a shit about. When you're a lower person, you have to. So.
I was a lower person before.
How did you
like
handle
I
it
didn't
then?
just jump to fire chief.
No,
I
no,
didn't
I
give
get
a
it.
shit about those people then.
That's fair.
Like,
there you go.
I don't care about those people. Like, they don't even come into my daily agenda. Like, it's not even a thought in my mind. Do not concern yourself with people of that stature. Like, don't even worry about it. I don't have any suggestion for you on that because I don't care about them.
Nice.
They don't exist.
Jacob?
I mean, I can't agree more. I just say, like, the company officer has a double standard, you're a mutt. That's all there is to it. You don't love the job, you don't know the job, you don't care to know the job, you don't care to be better at it, you don't care to learn, you're worthless. You are a waste of certification, you're a waste of a spot for a rookie that really wants to love the job. You are no value to the fire service, right? I will never ask any of my companies, I got 6 companies, I will never ask any of them to do what I don't do. If we're doing live burns at the training field, I gear up and I'm going there and I'm doing live burns, right? How many of y'all watch football? Raise your hands. How many of y'all love football? I love football. I love it. I played it. My son plays it. Everybody plays it. How many of y'all know that there's second and third string sitting on the bench, and how many of them are in street clothes? None. They're ready. They are ready for their moment to go make an impact in that game. They are ready to go in there and win the game, right? Go back to 2007. Right? I'm from Louisiana. I'm an LSU fan. You go back 2007 with Matt Mock. He was a backup quarterback. He come in and won the national championship for LSU. Second string, geared up, ready to roll. What I can tell y'all here tonight, there's no damn second string in the fire service. We are it. We are it. There's no second string. If we don't perform to the expectations, if we do not meet the standard that we expect, if we do not meet the expectations of the citizens that we serve, we have failed, and you are a mutt. So for the officers out there that have double standards, for the officers that withhold training to your guys because you don't want them to be smarter than you, you're a mutt. For the guys that make your crews or your shift late to training because you want to try to withhold information from them so they're not smarter than you, you're a mutt. And you can call me a jerk, you can call me an asshole, I don't care. At the end of the day, you are stopping somebody's career, you are halting somebody's life from being what they want to be, from having the knowledge that they want to have, and you do not deserve the badge that is on the left side of your chest.
Love it. Give it.
How many people in here are company officers? So I'd say there's more people in here that are not company officers.
Swapping you out.
I'm done.
No, you're coming back. You're closing it out.
I'm closing out.
So that works for what he says if you're a company officer, but if you're not, what the fuck are you dealing with? The company officer that's the mutt, right? That guy don't exist to me. Why is this even a topic? Like,
Love it.
they're not going to care what you do because they don't want to be present. If they're not present, then you do what you need to do. At the end of the day, do what you need to do that is proper for what you think's right. Have integrity and just do that. I mean, they don't exist. That's all I can say about it.
Beautiful. And I want to tell everybody, audience, you guys here know what's going on. Facebook audience, every 20 minutes you're going to get a new panel member. Each panel member is going to do 40 minutes as we progress through all 7 panel members. And now we've got Kyle Romagus on the panel. So keep sending your questions in on Slido. Yeah. Give it up for Jacob Johnson. He did the first 20. And he's going to close out at the end also. Okay, so right off, I was really glad because I wanted to get this question with both of you up here because it says, Chief Rhinewalt, can you talk about, and Chief Romagus, of course, but can you talk about the new engines in your department and how it has benefited your organization? You kind of go into details on what you guys did to spec those too.
I sent out an email and asked for 5 people that were interested in speccing an engine. And the first thing we did, let me say this. What y'all got today from Dennis Legear is nothing. If you really want to put your money where it's worth something, call Dennis to be a consultant in your organization for building an apparatus, period. It was nothing today. So if you liked what you got, contact him to help you spec your engines. We contacted Dennis. We did a 5-member panel, and from there, Kyle can talk about it because they spec'd the truck out. All I did was give them a budget.
For these new rigs, I had a couple things I couldn't change on it just for price region, the chassis, the water capacity, and the flat top. But other than that, he gave us free reign, and I think that was really important, is that he backed.
The flat top wasn't really a budget reason. I just told him that. I really wanted the flat top.
Hey, man, you can't put a price on cool. That's what I'm saying. But I think it was the first time I've ever been a part of an apparatus spec committee that was so hands-off from the fire chief. And I think that was pretty important. Obviously, he had the final say on what got wrote on the check on the end, and we had a budget to work within. But on that end, I took ownership of the hose bed and the plumbing, and I leaned on Dennis a lot for the plumbing side of it, and he was very helpful. He gave me a lot of job numbers of previous trucks that he had spec'd out for clean plumbing, and I'll let him go into the clean plumbing aspect. I don't want to take no.
It costs much less than a CAFS unit. A CAFS unit costs $50,000. Consulting from Dennis Legear is not that much money.
Yeah.
It's not that much money.
Yeah, but it was an extreme change. We were an all rescue engine fire department for a long time, and I had a mindset. I've been building these rigs in my head for about 10 years, and it was really cool to see them to come to fruition. And it was nice to be able to be an engine again. We were so long, and that's all I knew in the fire service was a rescue engine, which is coffin compartments and way too much equipment and high hose beds, and it was just unbelievable. It's horrible to stretch off of. And really the saving grace, if we had not put a ladder company in service prior to us building these engines, I don't think I would have been able to get away with what I was able to with pulling the equipment off the engines. And that's a hard conversation for a lot of people, and we got pushback because a lot of people don't like to pull equipment off of apparatus, but I saw us not needing the amount of equipment that we were stuffing into these engines. Now that we got a toolbox, you want the toolbox, you call the toolbox. So it was nice to be able to get the freedom to build an actual engine. But I was pretty involved, really involved with the pump, the piping, and the hose bed. As for where the flashlights go and what fucking order of the light bar was, I couldn't tell you. I don't know where they mounted the radios. I didn't know nothing about that. But I built the hose bed, and with Dennis's help, I built the pump. And a couple things on the pump that I really wanted is I wanted to limit it to 8 discharges on the pump panel itself just to clean it up. And I wanted to get away with as much water as I could movement without having gate valves on the pump panel. I wanted full open ball valves and as high as I could go. And I wasn't going to budge on changing the pickup tube locations. So with us doing an all rear deployment model, we moved the crosslays to the rear. So they're still pre-pipe crosslays, they're just on the rear. But I wanted to move the pickup tubes within 6 inches of the piping. And don't let them lie to you. They can do it. As much as
they did
told
not
me.
want to do it.
Yeah.
I called Dennis last minute. I don't know if you remember this, Dennis, but they were on the final inspection floor last minute and had to get a job number from another pumper at another organization to get the pickup tubes moved to where they were supposed to be in the original spec. They tried to put them back in the drains because they're concerned about freezing. Well, a lot different here, right? February was a anomaly. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But we had issues. He spec'd it that way. You've got to pay attention because luckily we sent some guys on the final inspection for the engine that caught it, because if somebody would have went and just didn't give a shit, they wouldn't have caught it. So I had to call Dennis and get an actual job number to convince the engineer that you can move the pickup tubes to the discharge by changing to where it may drain the water.
And you really got to find the right guy to say yes for a lot of this stuff. Because they'll tell you in the planning meeting and the engineering meeting, they'll be like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. There's somebody that works at that company that will say yes. You just have to ask and ask and ask until you find that guy like, yep, we've done that before. We'll do it. You know, but I had no ability to change manufacturers, and I never told you this story, but I threatened it. You know, you're either going to give me what I want. I got a blank check with nobody's name on it, and he won't make what I want. You know, I'll call somebody. You know, but sometimes you got to threaten people for stuff you want. But going back to the question, what's changed? I would say that it was a psychological game for the rear deployments for our fire department with building the truck company culture in as well. So we were in 1962, our fire department was established, no ladder trucks, all engines. And we built this ladder company culture and within a year of when we built the pumpers. And apparatus placement was a problem for us. Nobody was leaving room for the truck. So as psychological warfare, you know, we talked about, well, we just move the loads to the rear of the truck. They'll have to pull past. And, you know, by mind warfare, they'll leave room for the truck. You know, so, and it worked out well. There's a couple guys. You're never going to please everybody. You know, so there was a couple guys that were argumentative from the start on everything, but they didn't sign up for the committee, so I don't really give a shit what they said. You know, so, I mean, if you really cared that much, you would have signed up for the committee. You know what I mean? But
I had to send an email out too, and say, you know, if y'all think what we have now is better, then if you want, schedule a date, and I'll go head to head with you off of a rear deployment versus what we're currently using. 0 people signed up.
So on the when you were speccing and when you were arguing, when you were meeting with them, the manufacturers, and was it strictly a battle of wills?
Yeah, they could do everything we wanted to do. We weren't asking for anything outlandish. You know, everything that we were asking about, we had job numbers to back up their proof that they had done it before. Like, you know, something specific would be, I wanted all the driver's side drains on the driver's side of the truck, and all the officer side drains on the officer side of the truck. And you would think that wouldn't be a big deal, but I had to go through 5 people before I found somebody to say yes. You know, all I heard from them was, we can't do that. I was like, what do you mean you can't do that? It's a drain. Move the hose 8 feet over to the other side of the truck. I mean, what's the problem here? But, you know, sometimes you just have to go through the process and find the right guy and get the right job number to reference for them to say, well, you've done it before. What's the problem now? You know, so...
Nice.
But yeah, it was a battle of wheels for sure. I wasn't asking for, because I did my homework.
Right.
You know, and I wasn't asking for anything outlandish that hasn't been done before on another job number that they have already built. And I came in with guns blazing, man. I did my homework. I had job numbers galore. I knew a job number for that represented every part that I wanted to change. You know, so it's hard to argue with that.
Right on.
You know, but you just had to find the right guy.
Just the homework and the willpower.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. All right, I had to get to this question because, yeah, it's tips on motivating personnel that don't meet minimum physical standards. So you can guess why I pulled it out. Howard, I'm throwing it at you. And it's from Anonymous.
Are you anonymous again? No. That question's from somebody here, correct?
And I can't tell where it came from. It could be from Timbuktu.
I mean, you just make it job dependent. That's pretty good motivation. Our first year, we made the physical fitness standard job dependent. You take the PFT, you fail it, you get 30 days to retake it. If you fail it in 30 days, you lose your job. So we had a bunch of people lose their jobs. So that was a struggle for us, you know, to replace those positions. But at the end of the day, people bitched about it for a while, but today I would say nobody complains at all. Every year we do the test, no one bitches about it. They just do it, and it is what it is. I mean, I don't know. My answer to that question is make it job dependent. I mean, that's another soft toss for me. I don't have any long answers for y'all tonight, and I apologize. I guess I'll just talk a lot tomorrow. But you make it job dependent, it becomes a good motivation.
Kyle, you were there for it, so any...
I would say the most helpful part of it was the level of accountability went all the way up. So what a lot of people don't know is that Chief Rhinewalt's the first one to take the physical agility every year. You know, so he's not going to ask us to do something that he's not willing to do.
Beautiful.
You know, so the command staff is the first round of the physical agility every year. You know, and it don't matter what position you hold in our fire department, you're taking the physical agility. You know,
Except for the logistics guy.
yeah, we don't have. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we didn't have secretaries and stuff back then,
Yeah.
logistics guys and stuff. But he's old, man. He
The
probably
facility maintenance guy don't take it.
died. Yeah.
Like it.
The facility maintenance guy doesn't take the PFT. I tried. He said no.
And honestly, when you lead by example, when you wear the 5 bugles and you lead by example, you absolutely get the moral high ground. Is basically what it comes down to.
Well, and it's no like flake bullshit to where we go take it and nobody's there. We go it's done at the ISD's football stadium. The crew's already there to take theirs. We take it in front of them. They can witness us take the PFT just as well as they do. So I think a lot of administrators could go under, the disguise of no one gets to see them do it. But we try to do it in front of everybody. But
Hamster.
And I think on the motivation side, I guess depending on what we're talking, if we're just strictly talking about the PFT, the motivation side is, as he explained, is job dependent. But say, for instance, we're talking about fireground skills, the motivation on that end. It's very similar to the fact that you have to have accountability all the way up. So if I'm training a probie and I'm not willing to do the skill that I'm holding him accountable to, what motivates him to do that? You know what I mean? So one of the things that I've tried to do my best at, and I've always done it 100% of the time, is I will demonstrate every skill I'm asking you to do. So if your company officer doesn't demonstrate what he's asking you to do, the FBI would call that a clue, by the way. So, I mean, you've got to be able to demonstrate it. So it goes back to the previous question when they were talking to, I don't know, Anonymous asked another one when they were, yeah. But you've got to be able to demonstrate the physical part of this job for your people. I'm not going to ask you, and that builds trust. Like they were talking about earlier, it builds trust. I'm not going to ask you to do anything on the fireground that I will not demonstrate for you first. Obviously in a training environment, I'm not going to, force the door for you on the fireground, before you force it, But you should understand that goes from all the way up. This man will never ask me to do anything on the fireground that he would not do. If I was to tell him, no, I don't want to do that, what he would do is take whatever piece of equipment that he's asked me to use and then go do it. You know what I mean? So that trust going all the way up and down the chain, that level of accountability has to go all the way up and all the way down, in order for that to
I would say another motivation piece of that whole process is when we started, you've seen the same people in rehab every single fire. And now you don't. We rarely even operate a rehab. So that's a huge motivation for me, seeing that at the fire. And I think the guys and girls at our organization take pride in that as well. I mean, when you go around and tell somebody, if I don't pass the PFT at my fire department, I get fired, that's something to brag about. Because there's not many people doing it. I can tell you. I can't go into deep detail, but I can tell you it's used as a reason why we shouldn't use it. So
there it is. All right, now I want a follow-up question here. Going back to this pump spec and the engine spec, besides the pump and piping, what do you guys feel was the biggest attribute you wanted out of those engines that you spec'd?
Placement. Coming off the rear, I mean, it completely corrected the placement of our organization. Every single fire we were positioning to pull the crosslay off the side of the truck directly in line with the fire, which was okay most of the time. But when you made that fire where you had an extended deployment and you had to pull the 3-inch or the 2.5 and bundle off of that, we weren't in a habit of parking our truck for the fire. We were in a habit of parking our truck the same way every single time.
for the stretch.
Yeah. So it created that as a benefit for us. And secondly, is like he was talking about with the ladder truck in place, we've created a truck culture over a 2-year period in our organization. We haven't had a truck. We just got one. But we've done a very good job of creating that. Where we lacked was placing the ladder truck. And everybody in our county will come into a fire, engine, tanker, engine, ladder truck. Like the ladder, why is the ladder truck even at this fire? It's 6 apparatus back. So you'll hear us on the radio a lot of times say, you know, engine 1's approaching, we'll be on location making an attack. Engine 2, come in, booster tank back up. Everybody else stage and wait for the ladder to make the block.
Ooh.
Well, the rear end of the apparatus gave us the ability to have the truck park in front of the building. And no, we don't fly the ladder every single time, but the ladder has so much equipment on it, when it's parked in front of the building, it's useful. When it's parked 6 apparatus back, we wasted so much money putting equipment on this truck. So I think that's a huge benefit in that spec and adding that engine to our organization was the ability to allow placement to be a high priority and not a habit.
Kyle?
I was trying to look at the question again to see this.
I made it go away.
Okay.
But
Benefits
basically,
of the
besides the pumping and the piping, what was the biggest benefit?
Man, I'm an engine guy, so I mean, I've never stretched off a truck that we've owned that's been better to stretch off of, that's been easier to stretch off of, that's been easier to make the decision. Because, I mean, we have 3,000, we call them tankers where we're from. I don't know if you guys got, well, they're in Texas, so everybody's tankers in Texas. But you'd be surprised where we teach. And it's like we eat chicken tenders at home. So, I mean, we don't call trucks tenders where we're from. You know, but we have tankers, 3,000-gallon tankers, and it is such a pain in the ass to pull hose off of them. And most of our rigs, like I was saying earlier, the rescue engines, they put us in a position where we have to have high hose beds. You know, so being able to get released on the ability to make an L-shaped tank with a low hose bed was beneficial, very beneficial. The only thing I wish we could have done was extend the chassis and give us 1,000 gallons.
I'm pointing at Dennis.
So that's the only thing I wanted to do.
If you want to know the benefit is you don't have to stand on something to pull a hose off. Every time you go to your kitchen to get a cup out of the cabinet, stand on your counter and get the cup out of the cabinet. And then for the next week, don't stand on the cabinet.
Dennis.
And tell me which one's easier. It's just easier to pull the hose off. I mean, it was literally like standing on the counter to get a cup out of a cabinet every single time you pull a hose. And then it was a clusterfuck when it came off. So it's much better to predict the outcome of the incident by standing on the ground.
Nice.
We're designed to stand on the ground.
Beautiful. I don't think I got better answers. It's time for the swap. Nice. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
I got good ones coming for you. This one's been sitting here. Give it up for Chief Rhinewalt.
I swear Howard and I aren't dating. I did not pay for that endorsement.
When pumping into a standpipe system, and Dennis Legear has joined us on the panel. I don't think anybody up on this panel needs the introductions, but when pumping into a standpipe system, should you use PSI or RPM mode on your pressure governor? This is specifically for engines with single-stage pumps, and this question comes from Emily.
So, you know, I'm a product of my culture. The Oakland Fire Department uses relief valves, so I never really had to know this as an apparatus operator in Oakland. We didn't have a choice. You know, we just were relief valve rigs. So I think one of the important things around my consulting is that, you know, a lot of people, I think, appreciate my body of knowledge, and this really comes from being more places, right? I'm exposed to more things and more cultures. You know, I've probably been to 36 of the 50 states in a fire service capacity. I've done some stuff in Europe. I've done some stuff in Australia, some stuff in Canada. So Houston would be the department that I would lean on around this, specifically from teaching at HROC. And I believe Houston's policy is to pump into standpipes in the PSI mode. I have a chief here who looks very scared from the Houston Fire Department. Probably does not know the answer of this, but one of the pump operators has said that. And that makes sense. That makes sense to me. Now, if the building has a fire pump and PRVs in it, you're going to pump roof pressure, right? I think buildings that are that fancy and have a fire pump in it, the fire apparatus is plan B. You should hook up. You should charge the system. You shouldn't achieve roof pressure. You shouldn't deadhead your engines. You know, those fire pumps in those bigger buildings
Get
are
more
tested.
on your mic.
Oh, get closer to Mike.
Just for the internet audience.
So those buildings with fire pumps and stuff, you really should allow the fire pumps to work as designed, and then if there's a problem, then come up to the pressure that's required. So, and the nice thing about PSI mode, it's going to maintain that pressure, and it's not going to do extra work. Like if you have a relief valve and you got to do 300 PSI, you're going to be throttled way up, you know, if you're moving water. And the PSI setting based on demand will up and down throttle. So Now, that being said, you said single stage pump specifically. If for some reason it's a really tall building and you need to do series pumping at the FDC, the pump on the hydrant should be in RPM and the pump on the FDC should be in PSI. You never want to have two pumpers pump to each other and both be in PSI mode because they'll fight each other. So, long story short, if you're a relief valve, don't worry about it. Pump the pressure you need. If you're pumping in a standpipe, use the PSI mode. If you're a single stage or even two-stage pumper. If you have to do series pumping, make sure the hydrant pumper is in RPM. And that one thing that I will tell you about governors, if anything starts occurring strangely, especially at large flow fires, the easiest thing to do is just to go back to RPM mode. If it starts to surge or do anything strange, that's my first move to correct. Kyle, do you want to add anything?
And I try to stay in my lane, and that is not my area of expertise. So I have zero to add to that.
Beautiful. Mark that one as answered. And then I want to throw this one at you because I'm picking this one on purpose. So, Basic Fire Academy. How do we bridge the gap with realistic live fire evolutions within the confines of repeatable evolutions with high numbers of students? And I'm going to throw it at you, and then I am going to take a fiver.
Man, I think this is probably the most challenging thing to do as a fire instructor at a fire academy. You're handcuffed by the amount of time you have with them and your resources available to you and the amount of people you have to push through. But I think I don't think that there's anything that we can do to stop this from occurring on the fire ground in the training evolution. Just from with the NFPA constraints that we have on fuel packages that we can burn and the ability to do this in a manner to where we can get so many students through. But the main thing that you have to do is don't stop at that point. You need to explain to them that, and really the biggest, easiest way to get around it is to supply your fire academy with enough money to buy enough fuel to where you don't have to continuously not put the fire out during the evolution. So allowing these recruits to actually use water on the approach, use water inside the room, and extinguish the fire is going to take money, a lot of money. And that's where the resources are going to be limited for a lot of fire academies. And if you don't have the ability to increase your budget to allow for that fuel. So we just burned 36 burns in Boise, and hope some Treasure Valley fools are listening to this. We burned so much OSB in Boise, like I would be willing to bet tens of thousands of dollars worth of OSB in order to complete the burns without having this issue that you're talking about right here. And it takes an extreme amount of money. So sorry, Boise, for using all your OSB for that. But it's something, and if you can't do it, you need to explain to your recruits the reason why you can't do it and how they can adjust their fire attack in a way to where even if we can't set the building on fire, we could still perform a fire attack and put water where we need to be and continuously flow in those situations. And you need to understand why. They need a if this, then this scenario. You have to explain to them not only the how, but the why. So I don't know if you got anything on that end.
Well, I come from a fairly liberal part of the country, and the Bay Area has a thing called the California Air Resource Board, and I see Oakland's burning now, doing live fire more often, so I don't know if there's been some sort of detente or mutually assured destruction or something. But when I was teaching in our academy regular hose and nozzle operations, you really didn't get any live fire experience. So Jay Camella, Daryl Liggins, myself, and a guy named Mark Westeldine actually came out on his own time and spent time teaching hose and nozzles to a fire academy in Oakland. I think it was about 2005. And we ended up doing a joint academy. It was the first and last. We tried to fail a few people on hose, and they weren't from our agency. And they're like, well, they need to fail 2 components to be eliminated. And I think that was the end of that. Like, we're not going to do a joint academy again. Because if you fail hose and nozzles, what really are you, right?
Hey, that's 2 components, hose and nozzles.
Yeah, hose and nozzles. I should have figured that out when we were there. But here's the story, right? So we're in a drill tower. We're not going to get live fire. And so how do we make it realistic? So obviously, the toughest things about an advance is doing it under limited visibility, using the sound of the stream, in discomfort, tired, around obstacles, and keeping the nozzle open. So for me, by the time you get to live fire, if you can't do a flowing push and do all these over obstacles, under obstacles, hand the nozzle off to another person, back up while flowing, move forward while flowing, switch directions. And honestly, the easiest way to switch directions, I know the nozzleman doesn't like it, but it's to pass the nozzle back over to your backup and just reverse positions on the line. If for some reason you ended up have fire behind you. All those skill sets don't require live fire. And honestly, to practice them correctly, in my opinion, Kyle, live fire is a distraction. It's a real distraction between the skill set. So to me, live fire is a privilege you get after you have all those skill sets developed. And not only developed when you have good eyesight and you're clear and without a bottle on, by the time you're done in the academy, you're doing this with a bottle on, with a cellophane mask or some sort of obscured vision, then you can do it. So kind of my suggestion around live fire is that, I'll tell you why I know this is true. When this academy left and became line firefighters in Oakland, they were on probation, I would routinely get phone calls from company officers saying, man, we had a fire and this person just kicked ass. You know, like the nozzle was open, the fire went out, they had no problem advancing the line. This other person that was from the same class was shagging line. So to me, live fire is not the time to try to do a lot of evolutions. I'd rather have one evolution or two evolutions that are really realistic, like one good burn in this bedroom in this acquired structure, and that's over. And then we're gonna do another one. And it's just like, hey, not everyone's gonna get time on the nozzles in this acquired structure burn. And I think quality over quantity, because I can teach the skill set of extinguishing fire without having fire present. I can't get enough students through a realistic burn to make it worth my time. I'd rather get them the skill set and then make the amount of live fire I have realistic. And not everybody's gonna get time on the nozzle at a live fire evolution. That's just the way it goes. Because if you're doing it right, you ain't gonna be able to relight that room on fire. I mean, that part of the structure's done. Like, you need to move to another floor, another room. Unless you're in the middle of the desert and you can let the building dry out for like a week, it ain't burning again.
Yeah, and essentially, live fire is the biggest benefit of live fire is making people uncomfortable. So making them uncomfortable prior to game day is the biggest benefit of live fire. And the guys from Houston will tell you, those guys used to try to kill them in that basement, in the Houston Fire Department. That was their intention, is to try to kill them in the basement. So I think the biggest benefit of live fire would be making people uncomfortable, getting them to the point to where they can feel an extreme amount of heat prior to the point to where they're going to be asked to make a decision, a life-changing decision in that situation. But like Dennis was saying, absolutely. You can teach this skill set without live fire. It's just a big benefit of it. But it's going to cost you a lot of money to do it repeatedly.
Beautiful. Man, I don't know what I missed on the first half, but the second half, absolutely. Great question coming from Anonymous. What's Kyle drinking so we can get him one?
Well, Kyle has to drive home. So Kyle will take a Dr. Pepper if you're buying. But, yeah, I got to drive home right after this. One more drink. I'll take a Miller Lite then, if that's the case.
Since I got Legear and Romagus up here, I'm going to say, can you go into detail on, this is from Anonymous once again, this guy's on fire, okay? Can you go into detail on water velocity? And let me say something about Anonymous. Some people are technologically challenged, and when it says name, they just don't fill it in. So Anonymous is the default. Yeah. So if you have a good question and you don't put the name in there, it doesn't show up. Can you go into detail on water velocity and its effect in handline packages?
Well, there's two types of water velocity, right? There's stream velocity, and then inside the hose, there's tube velocity. So a lot of people think low friction loss is the hallmark of good hose design, and that's essentially untrue. So all the manufacturers have basically access to the same raw materials, and they all can make a fairly smooth liner. So they're all gonna, the thing that's missing in fire service hydraulics is liner coefficient. So like if you had a cattle ranch and you wanted to move water from stock pond A to stock pond B, and there was so many, it's like half a mile, and you had so much head, there's so much difference in height between the two stock ponds, and you wanted to move the water a certain amount per day, and you told an engineer, it's like, hey, I have 4-inch pipe I can use. The next question out of the engineer's mouth would be like, well, what, is it concrete pipe? Is it PVC pipe? Is it steel pipe? Because they're wondering what the friction loss coefficient is going to be based on how smooth the liner is. So like a way to look at this would be like a gravel road versus a dirt road versus an asphalt road versus a freeway that are all one lane wide. Obviously, the concrete freeway you'd be able to drive the fastest on, right? Then the paved road, then the gravel road, then the dirt road. So when I was looking at trying to find a manufacturer to make true ID 1 3/4, what I really wanted was 160. I really wanted 160 GPM. I wanted 40 PSI per 100 feet, or 20 PSI per length. And that's because the average hydrant pressure in the United States is between 50 and 100 based on the way we construct our water systems. So what I wanted was 40 plus 40, that's the 200-foot pre-connect. That's 80 plus 50 is 130, okay? At 130, that means often when your rig's at idle and you have hydrant pressure, you're not gonna need to gate the line ever, and your governor's always gonna work. So key, when they made it, it ended up being 35. And I was like, is there any way we can make it 40? Can we actually intentionally add bumps into the hose to make it have more friction loss? Because one of the benefits of that is you're going to have higher back pressure. When the nozzle's shut, you're going to have more static pressure, which will knock kinks out. But when the nozzle's open, because there's additional friction loss, you're going to have higher back pressure, so a kink's less likely to form, right? So a lot of people have this backwards, you know, especially in the small hand line. Like, I don't want a tube size that is too big, because then you have a freeway where you only really need a gravel road. But the other problem is, as friction loss goes down, if everyone has the same smoothness liner, it means the hose is actually getting bigger. And you know, Snaptype's a sponsor here, you know, and if and so is Mercedes. Like, I would be in Kraken EXO Metro to get the smaller hose size. Or if I had to choose between Pond Gladiator 177 and 188, friction loss is not a primary objective of the small handline attack package. I want friction loss to be adequate. I want the tube size to be right size for the flow. So I'm looking for hose, for water velocity in small handline, I'm looking for 20 to 23 feet per second. So when the water's moving at a good velocity and it runs into a kink, it's gonna wash it out, right? And then when it gets to the nozzle, it's that Freeman ratio. You can be off on this, but essentially I want the nozzle surface area to be about a quarter what the tube's diameter is. That means you're gonna, if water's non-compressible and it's traveling through the hose at 21 feet per second, and now it has to go through a quarter of the space, it's gonna accelerate 4 times. That's 85 feet per second. So that's that 50 PSI nozzle pressure. And then 85 feet per second and 60 miles an hour. I can't think of a residential compartment where I'd want my fire stream to travel greater than 60 miles an hour. So the only reason I'm looking for a nozzle pressure over 50 is to compensate for shitty hose. So 40 to 50 pounds nozzle pressure is pro GPM, lower reaction force, which is pro bail open time. So I still think there's a lot of people out here that are much too focused on friction loss on hand lines deployed off engines. I think it's, especially some of the hoses are just ridiculously big. Now, Power Snaptype, they might have changed their design, but Conquest is like 1.9 inches, and people put a 7/8 on it, and it's only 15 or 20 pounds per 100. So 20 plus 20 is 50. It's 90. So to get your 200-foot crosslay to work, you only need 90 pounds, and then you're in some ridiculously oversized 5-inch for your room and contents house fire. So you get the full hydrant pressure at the rig. The hydrant's at 80. The rig idle's at 50. You're at 130. You got a 3/4 gate down your primary attack line. I mean, that just shit. That dog don't hunt. Yeah. It is cheaper than calves. Yeah.
And if anybody's wondering, Chief Rhinewalt is off screen saying he's cheaper than calves. So requires no maintenance.
Yeah.
Kyle, anything to add?
I've got nothing on the hand lines. On velocity, I will say that one thing I got from Dennis a long time ago was I agree 100% when he says I think we've been doing master streams all wrong along this time. So I like to pump my master stream, my deck gun at 115. So I pump the inch and 3/8 at 115 nozzle pressure, gets me 602 gallons a minute. And ever since we put the valves on the deck gun itself, I'm not noticing that elephant trunk that I used to see coming out of the deck gun. It's a laser beam when it comes out of there. And, I mean, just think about the type of fire that you would want to use the deck gun on. You have an extreme amount of radiant heat. You're fighting an extreme amount of exhaust. And just imagine yourself walking through this room right here, and this room's on fire. Are you going to walk or are you going to run? You know, I want to run through the room.
So water hammer, right? Can you get water hammer by opening a valve too quickly? No. So why can't they make a deck gun valve that's push-pull, and it pulls open quick and pushes close? All it take would be a little oil dampener shock on it, right? Right? So that's anyone who's listening from an apparatus manufacturer, you want to win against your other, make a fast open LDH discharge and a slow close. Because a hand wheels is slow both directions. And Chicago has been doing a regular swing valve, quarter turn ball valve on their deck gun for like 50 years. They just have the discipline not to shut it off too quickly. Yeah. But if the NFPA 1901, the safety gods think that's too dangerous, just make it open quick and close slow. It's an easy fix. It's well within the engineering capacity of our wonderful fire service engineers.
I got a specific question coming at Kyle.
Okay.
So I want to get it in here because we're at, but it's from the hamster.
The hamster?
So give it up for the hamster. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Romagus, what's the best way to gain the trust of your officer in being an independent nozzleman with limited fire runs?
I would say to prove competence. If you want a leash from me as your company officer, I need you to prove to me that you deserve it. I need you to prove to me that you can make these decisions in absence of me. You know, and it's kind of reverse. That's kind of weird because it's kind of reverse. You're asking for freedom from your company officer when you should have it already, especially if you ride a three-man engine. But, I mean, it's my job as a company officer to prepare you with the mindset and abilities and skill set to be able to make these decisions in absence of me. Because if you ride a three-man engine as a captain, you're a plugman that wears a red hat, as we talked about today. So you're guaranteed to be alone on the nozzle. So if I am not preparing you to make these decisions in absence of me, I am failing you as a company officer. And for you to have to come to me and ask me for the leash, I mean, who's building your hose cache would be my question. You know, if you ride a three-man engine and your company officer's right next to you watching TV on the tick, who's building your hose cache would be my first question. You know, but I would say if I was in that situation, I would want you, if I did not, let's just say I'm a different dude, and I don't feel comfortable teaching you these things to make you an independent operator, I would want you to prove competence and a level of understanding that would allow me the freedom and trust in you to be able to make these decisions in absence of me. And that may just be a conversation, that may be some drill time. I mean, you just need to prove competence.
I think one of the things about proving confidence is also proving your limitations. And I don't think that's discussed on the other side very often, right? So there's Oakland's a complex city. You know, we have the bungalow battalion. Then we have like chopped up Victorians that are SRO'd. Then we have all the buildings that are attached. And there was times I expected not to say a thing to my nozzleman, you know, the person that's running behind me. It's a basic fire. It's within 200 feet of the rig. They're either going to pull the 150 or 200 pre-connected line. I want to do some other stuff that's related to safety, get a bigger picture of the incident, right? But then if we pull up to a building that's going to be a bulk bed stretch, or it might take multiple companies to get a line in position, it's a walk up. And it's, are we going to use a standpipe or are we not going to use a standpipe? To have the honest conversations of where I don't feel comfortable as a nozzleman. You know, like, hey, what do you want from me when we go to these types of buildings? And as an officer, you're just going to have, sometimes you're going to have to tell your nozzleman, it's like, there's a reason the larger the building gets, the truck goes first, right? A lot of people don't have that experience, but as the building gets larger, the truck is going to find the exact fire floor where the line goes. Because if you do a lengthy stretch and you end up in the wrong place, it's bad. Like, it's very hard to correct. So as buildings get bigger and more complicated, and you're somebody that wants that responsibility at less complicated buildings, you also have to know the time when you have to ask your officer, hey, what are you looking for here? You know, and sometimes it's going to be, hey, stand by the rig. Like, there's a lot of smoke here. I don't even know if we're in front of the right building that's on fire, you know.
Beautiful. All right. Kyle, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm coming down there and hug everybody.
I say he's leaving. He said he was leaving tonight. Everybody else gets hugs. No, he just said he was leaving after this, so I was like, man, I got to get it in. Yeah, I know. I got excuses for days. Question. Ignore all these monkeys. Dennis, what reference material is available for an individual to understand hydraulics as you just explained?
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot. That's unfortunately, there's no John Norman Fire Officer Handbook of Tactics. Like, if you're a company officer, or you're striving to have that seat, or you're a firefighter, has some time on the job, and you're off probation, you're just like looking for a good quality read that's going to really improve you. Like, that's a no-brainer. Like, read John Norman's Fire Officer Handbook of Tactics. Now, the problem with pump operating is there's no single. That's kind of like a company officer Bible, and then there's a bunch of auxiliary stuff that you can read. There's no hydraulics Bible like that, you know. There's a old NFPA pamphlet from the 50s that Warren Kimball wrote, just called Fire Service Hydraulics. It's a good one. Unfortunately, some of the books that I've been recommending, I think Bergington's Fire Service Hydraulics, when I started recommending, you could pick up a used copy for like $70, but I think people have been listening. Last time I checked, it was like $2,000. So some of these books are out of print that are hard to find. So I think eventually we're going to have to do something. Dave Furnell needs to get his second edition of the Fire Stream Management Handbook out. It's kind of, unfortunately, some of his IP was just put out as a PDF, and you know, that's a shame. You know, it kind of de-incentivizes him to finish that work, you know. And that is a problem in the fire service industry, that you have to be motivated and passionate, because if you write a book, you're probably not going to be well compensated for it unless it gets on reading lists and stuff. Did you self-publish your book?
I did.
Yeah, so maybe I need to do a self-published book.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Encourage that.
But Fire Service Hydraulics is a pretty good book. Yeah, it's just tough. Where did I read? Kimball's stuff was the hydraulics stuff. And honestly, you know, it's going to sound a little bit strange. This is piecemealed together between like 5 different texts. Like, and if your agency hired me to come teach a pump class, like, there's no, like, I want to find a emergency vehicle technician, mechanic that's part of my cadre, because like how to shoot trouble codes in the transmission. What's it mean if this warning light's on? You know, is your rig going to shut down? Rule water supply. You know, you want somebody like Andy Socadato. You know, me on the urban side, and then you know, there's a couple guys out of San Francisco. Pump operating, actually, there is no one book on it. unfortunately. And I think if there ever was, it would be a multiple author book. So sorry, I can't really.
And I think everyone who's
Get through
listening
that.
and everybody who knows a friend should tell a friend to email Dennis and say, please write that book. So, no, 100%. Yeah. So, a couple things I want to say. First, I really tried to wait for my break till Todd got on stage because I wanted to wait and take a break till Todd got here. Other than that, when I first met Dennis through social media, I posted a video of my guys flowing with like a 5-foot stinger of 3-inch hose, right?
Yeah.
No. But no, I knew nothing about hydraulics or anything like that. So I made my little post, and it was a video of my guys flowing with the stinger, and I said, yeah, it really lowers the nozzle reaction. At which point, I got a 4-paragraph explanation on Facebook on why it did not lower nozzle reaction. And I was like, who the hell is this guy telling me? Yeah.
I'm just listening.
I went and typed out a
absorbing
really
all this
long
knowledge.
response, and luckily I was like, wait a minute, maybe I should see who this guy is. And I was like, okay, never mind. Never mind.
He never sent it.
I never
he
sent
claims
it.
he wrote one. Yeah,
Yeah.
he never sent it.
I typed out a lot of stuff that was based in ignorance, right? It was ignorance. It wasn't a...
Yeah, so if anybody went through my class today, and I've changed the way I do business over the last 10 years. I spend a lot of time just talking about mindset and the ability to know that failability is okay and that you're going to be ignorant on stuff. And I've had to change positions over the years. The thing you don't want to be is the guy that's like a flag in the wind. You're just jumping on what's popular and you have to change your position all the time. That guy's not ignorant. That guy's a dumbass. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Todd.
I was trying to see. We got a lot of different questions. I'm just trying to pick
Well,
one
we've
out.
kind of come to the stupid part of the program tonight because if you have any complicated questions, audience or online, this is not the time to answer. Ask those questions, you're not going to get an answer. If you want some coefficient shit, you need to hit Dennis up a little on his email or something.
There's one from Zach directly towards Todd.
Yeah, that's my kid, I think.
Todd,
I bribed him and said, hey, ask one damn question so you got something to say.
this is his question to you. He said, do you plan on raising your son's pay since he is your best employee?
Oh, hell no. No. Let me say this right now. This is recorded. I can replay this shit, right?
Right.
All right. The answer is a solid no. He's barely earning the shit we're giving him as it is. So, no, he hasn't even paid that. He's supposed to do midpoints on all my attack hose. None of that shit's done. No, I know. He sucks. He sucks, Howard. That was Howard Rhinewalt for Zachary that can't probably hear Howard in the back room. So, yes, no. But, yeah, this is definitely a little bit different aspect on my end. You got more questions? If you got a lot of shit, Dennis,
got
we just leave
questions.
Dennis up here all night.
No, I got blue card command.
Oh, yeah, ask me that shit.
Pros and cons.
Yeah,
Pros, question mark.
All right, listen.
Cons, question mark.
As a battalion chief, when I was a battalion chief, this was a whole different part of my career. But as a battalion chief, I felt like you needed to be out of the damn car, not sitting in the car. Thank you. Air conditioning and heater while your guys are out there busting their asses. The stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. It is, and I'm not bashing it. What their program in general has a lot of solid things. I believe in some of the things they do, but as a boss, I wanted to hear it, I wanted to smell it, wanted to taste it in some cases to really understand if I got 4 guys on the second floor, I can't do that from 2 blocks away sitting in my air-conditioned vehicle. It just doesn't make sense to me. I wanted to be out front. I wanted to be able to see the building. And from real-life experience and some really, really bad mistakes on my part, that's how I learned. I'm not learning that sitting in a vehicle. I'm not learning that sitting on a computer. I had a chief officer, I'm not going to say his name because he's a dumbass, but he told me he could run a fire from his office at headquarters. He could run a fire from his office at headquarters. That dude couldn't put out his ass if it was on fire, but he could run a fire from headquarters. And that's not how it works. And that's just my there's pros to the blue card. I really believe there are things in there you can take away, but I don't believe in adopting anything 100%.
Love it. Anything to add, Dennis?
Well, the Brunicinis obviously are a well-known family in the fire service, so you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I agree with Todd. There's pros and cons. I never had the privilege of making Chiefs rank. I definitely would have tested. I wasn't going to be a captain for life. I would have definitely tested for the BC's rank. And honestly, two positions that I would have really liked to be in a fire department is either, obviously the dream job would be like DC of Ops, but also DC of Logistics. Like I think logistics officers that actually do their job and not worry about the money and make sure they get the equipment the guys are speccing and what they've done are worth their weight in gold. But that being said, I just toured the Phoenix Fire Department, and to my surprise, they don't use blue card. So one thing I will comment about blue card from my consulting side is everybody knows that I was kind of the guy with naked on the corner with the sandwich board and the tinfoil hat talking about how dumb Y operations are. And especially with modern flows, and I wrote the articles, and I went from the tinfoil hat came off, then somebody gave me some clothes, and then somebody took my sandwich board, and then there was an army of people that understood. So I don't really need to fight that fight too much anymore. I am doing it again at FDIC this year, but blue card claims not to do tactics, and in there, the horizontal standpipe is listed as a mandatory action with the gated Y. And the Brunicinis are typically a truck culture family, so I wish they would remove that from blue card. So if anybody's listening to that and can put their thumb on the scale, that hydraulically doesn't work. It's an unsafe practice. There are fire departments that are blue card certified that want to stop that operation. And there are chiefs in America saying that we can't get rid of the Y because it's in blue card. And I don't really understand why that makes a difference if it actually doesn't work. But I do have several departments that if they would make that change to blue card, it would help them operationally.
Love it.
Agreed.
I got a specific question coming at Todd. Can you go into detail on how you overcame the demotion and kept the faith? What are some tips for guys who may be dealing with adversity?
Yeah, I think this is, I'm really promoting, you guys are here tomorrow afternoon, the guys that are in town. We have overcomplicated the fire service. We've overcomplicated everything. I mean, we talked about the calves and all the other crap. We are looking for ways to make this job a hell of a lot harder than it has to be. But on my end, when I got demoted, double demoted, one of the first things I thought about was why I joined the fire service in the first place. And it wasn't about being a boss. It wasn't about rank. It was about going to fires. And I actually have an audience. Why do we exist? Bald-headed guy right here.
Save lives and property.
That's the only reason we damn exist.
Hell yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's the only thing that really mattered to me anyway. Now, my wife had a different opinion of my double demotion. She thought about like hiring snipers and shit. But for me personally, it still boiled down to being that first guy on the scene, making those hard decisions, doing my size up, making the push down that shitty hallway for that kid on the second floor. And that's really what it all comes down to. For me personally, I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody. Really, I understand that. But being double demoted, taking that monster pay hit, I got to go back to do what I've always loved the most about the fire service, and that was being on a fire truck. And that's the only thing that really matters. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is making that push, making that grab for what that's what we're here for. You can have all the policies in the world, but that's what we're here for. See, that shit's simple.
I just deleted the question. But it was basically someone asked Dennis, why didn't they study the full fog for protection in the UL studies? I'm paraphrasing because I just deleted the question on accident.
And that question kind of, once you have good knowledge and understanding, it deserves deletion. But the
Head of the game.
I wanted it done, and it was in, and they were going to do the real risk around full fog protection is that it's not going to work, right? And we discussed that. We discussed this we discussed this during my class. So I think this is another thing where we have training scars. Like you can do something, you can get a bunch of cold smoke in a drill tower and change the vent profile and get it all out of drill power and say, oh, look how that worked. And it's like, well, that's not really the environment you're going to be in on the fire ground. It's you know, fruit from a poisoned well. And I think where most people get the protection from fog is outside propane gas props where you march up on them and you have a bunch of wind going by you because the fog nozzle drains a ton of air, and it's not that stream, those little droplets aren't hitting any hot surfaces, right? So there's no roof over your head and you're not in a compartment. So you can feel outside, it's like, wow, look how much better this is with a fog stream. I wouldn't be able to advance on this gas prop. First, the heat release rate's very low compared to a flashover in a compartment. And then second off, in a full fog, you're entraining a lot of air and you've given up reach. But the main problem in a flashover in a residential compartment is you need absolute rapid cooling of the overhead in a single spot, and then you need that to create lift around you. So usually, the way I would say it is in a residential compartment that is at flashover or about to flashover, usually what is occurring is you've had an adjacent compartment flashover and you have a wall of heat coming towards you. And what you want to do is you want to be on straight stream or solid stream if you're in a smooth bore. You want to open, you want to direct it into the overhead, directly over you. And that concentrates all your water into a single spot above you, and it's going to radiate in a 360-degree circle and cool the whole ceiling. Now, heat travels from an area of high excitement to an area of low excitement. So anybody who's burnt their hand on like the kitchen stove, the reason your hand burns is because your hand's cooler than the stove. So if the ceiling is massively cool, you're going to get lift and globalized cooling of that compartment. The problem about being in a fog stream is instead of delivering 2.5 gallons per second to maybe a 2 square foot area above you and then having that spot be really cool and then radiating out, if you're on a wide fog, let's say the ceiling's 10 feet and now you're covering like 50% of a 10 by 10 ceiling above you. So you have like 50 square feet. Now you're delivering that same 2.5 gallons per second over 50 square feet. So if it was 100 square feet, you'd move the decimal point twice. It's 0.025 gallons per square foot. It's only 0.05 gallons per square foot. So are you going to rapidly cool that ceiling? You need a cold spot over you to give somewhere the energy to go. Now, the fog nozzle push wide open, the problem there is you can overpressurize your advance, and you don't have any reach of the stream. So if there's victims or civilians down there, you're not cooling your advance. If you have a vent in front of you, you have cool air going by you, so it might feel more comfortable, but you don't have any reach, so you're not getting any downstream cooling. So we did have an experiment in the UL study that was going to be no vent, 1 bedroom flashed in front of the hose and nozzle team, and we were going to advance down with the 30-degree fog. And essentially, the 2 research engineers said they wouldn't do it. And I said, why? And they said, well, we had a NIST study where we got some members burned doing that, and it's not safe. And they could put it in the fire dynamics simulator, they could show it, and you're going to overpressurize your advance. The low pressures behind you is going to bring heat to the nozzles. So I showed some videos today of European gas prop cooling in the wide fog perfection. It's very obvious that fire comes to the nozzles. And in 1983, William Clark wrote Firefighting Principles and Practices, and he has an actual picture of this inside. So I couldn't force the researchers to do it. I mean, I said, well, why don't you try it, and if it gets uncomfortable, you shut the nozzle down. And they still wouldn't do it. So if you look in the study, in the tactical recommendations, it basically says a fog nozzle on anything other than straight stream is the only water application that can make the fire environment worse. So they have a much higher educational level than me, but looking at the fire ground and the way you can churn over a compartment with a fog stream, and my experiences with fogs, we've had several members burnt in Oakland around fog stream operations. So when we wrote a specific policy that basically says you shall not operate a fog nozzle on anything other than straight stream until the fire is knocked, because we had those experiences in our department. We wrote the policy and we don't have problems anymore.
Nice. Dennis Legear. You're up. The chief
I'm
is
relieved
coming.
of duty.
You've done it. You made it to your finish line.
I do not have an answer for moving decimal points. And listen, you got to be able to look at what Dennis, UL, NIST, and all those studies say. But here's my easy answer for your average blow Joe firefighter: just open the damn nozzle.
Hell yeah.
If you're in doubt, what's your name right here on your phone, looking at Snap shit in front of me? Okay, save that, because you're going to learn a hell of a lot more from Dennis than you are from me, bro. But listen, if it's hot, what should you do? If it's smoky and you can't see shit, open the line. Somebody's cutting half in the middle of the street. Open the line. He's cutting half. Who gives a shit, bro? Wash his ass down the gutter and move on with your life. Just open the nozzle. We've got to get away from teaching firefighters the wrong tactics, going back to some of the earlier questions about fire ground operations, live fire training. We have got to allow guys to train in real environments. 2 pallets and then yelling at a guy to shut down the nozzle, we're not teaching a rookie a damn thing. They push down. My favorite is when we push down, they open the nozzle for 3 seconds to wet down the pallets, because that's the only thing we're burning, and then we tell them to back all the way out. They get to the door, we rotate the next guy to the nozzle, they crawl down. They squirt water for 2 seconds, they back out. It's ridiculous. We actually are teaching firefighters not to put out fire. It makes zero, so you agree with me, Chief?
100%.
Yeah. He's been to a hell of a lot more fire than all of us put together
All
in this
of us
room.
put together.
You
No.
agree with that? That's not because you're
Dennis
old, Chief.
Legear left. Chief Mo Davis is on deck, and Todd already killing it. I'm throwing one at you, both of you. Someone sent it, anonymous sent it to Todd. When doing your training, what do you think is the biggest takeaway you want students to have? Okay, so it's starting with you, and I want Mo to answer it, but also I broke the seal, so I'll be back.
Oh, shit. Hell yeah. We got rid of now we really go. Whenever I'm doing training, the first thing we focus on is reps. And everybody that teaches with me know if we start at 8 and I've got a guy that needs 42 more reps, we're going to stay till 10 o'clock at night. We don't care about time. The second thing is adaptive training. It pisses me off when I see an instructor say this is the only way you can do a ladder carry. Witnessed this just this past year, and they were just beating this female firefighter up because she couldn't do the high shoulder carry by herself. I said, how about she just carry it low? Well, this is how we everybody in this room is going to be different. There's a bunch of young guys. There's shit I can't do. He can't do anymore either because we're a little bit older. He's a lot older, but I don't care how she got the ladder to point B to throw it to the victim. I just want the ladder there. So I even said, let her drag it. She drugged the ladder, slung it by herself, brought it up 2 clicks, was perfectly in the window, and we did the VES drill. Not everything has to be set because IFSA says it, or because your manual says it, or because that instructor only knows one damn way. So my overall answer to that is we got to be adaptive to training. So everybody in this room, whatever works best for you, Kyle Romagus. How many of you have seen Kyle Romagus's weird-ass stair shit going up and flowing? I've tried it 100 times. Guess how many times I've been successful? 0. But I've tried. It just doesn't work for me, my knees and all that. So I do I bail down. I move up 30 steps. I blast the shit out of it. Bail down, move up 30 steps. But that's adaptive. That's what works for me. Kyle can do it all day. I've seen him do it 100 times on YouTube. It's amazing. I can't do it. I
agree with that. And I think in training, we build confidence. We take something that we don't know or something's new to us, and we start trying the way that works for us. And I think the key to success at whatever level we are in training, and remember, there's a difference between training and drilling. If we're training on something, we're building confidence on that. We're learning something new. And I don't think, and I agree with what Chief said, I don't think we can put a time frame on that. I don't think we can put speed on that. And I think early in our training, we need to set our expectations high. We need to communicate those expectations, what we're trying to develop, where we're trying to go with the training, and then we meet that. And if it takes longer, it takes longer. And so once we become competent in that, we move on to the drill phase. It's the same thing. I think the key to all successful firefighting assignments is confidence. No matter what assignment they give us, if we're confident in that assignment, we're confident in our abilities, and we're confident in our training, we can always accomplish that no matter what it is, whether it's cutting a hole, whether it's pulling a line, whether it's taking a blood pressure. But I think training has to be with building confidence at all levels.
Did you guys kill it? Did they kill it? Yeah, give it up.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, I got to get to this one because it's important to me.
Does that make sense what we're saying about adaptive training and confidence building? When you have training programs that are just solely beating guys down and we're just yelling at them for making mistakes, then you're a failure as an instructor, a total failure as an instructor. And we got to move away from that all day long.
And always make training relevant. You know, if you're just going out there to harass people, you're not getting anything out of it. Make everything we do a win. And I think the fire service is built on small wins every day. And don't just go out there just to harass the guys. Go out there with a specific purpose in mind, and you talk about it before you get there. You don't scream and holler and belittle people. You get out there and you train them because basically, I mean, all of our lives depend on it, in all honesty.
Solid, man. You can't beat that. This one, it comes from the hamster again, and it ties straight into what we were talking about already. And I think you already kind of answered it. But how do you get members to buy into training, whether on shift or off, so that we all know everyone's strengths and weaknesses?
Oh, God, you're awesome.
Which I think, like I said, it ties into what we're just saying.
Go ahead.
So I think if we lead, and that's including in training, and where's the hamster? He was back here somewhere earlier. There you are.
Yeah, right there.
Light blue.
You know, it doesn't matter what rank you are, be that leader. And I think if we were talking at a conference earlier in the week, and it was a female firefighter who told us that nobody would help her. So she went outside and just started banging on the apparatus floor, and they came out there, and she goes, okay, you're out here, let's train. So what you have to do is you have to demand buy-in. And if you can't get buy-in, if you start doing it, firemen are weird creatures. We never want to be shown it. We're in type 8 personalities. You go out there and you start doing something, you're going to get them. And as soon as you get them out there, you keep them out there. Now, as far as the outside, that's a little bit harder because it's expensive, and we get it. And, you know, most of us still take classes, too. It's expensive to travel and train. That comes back on the command staff and that. We really got to start doing better at that. I told someone in the hallway earlier, I honestly think every conference we go to, we take the fire service back a little bit. We lost the fire service for a few years, and we're taking it back every single day by stuff like this. And we've got to spread that out.
A guy I've been very fortunate and blessed to train with over the last couple of years said something to me the other day I thought was just perfect, spot on. We like to think, we sometimes kind of kid ourselves that we think we're better than we really are. And we can how long have you been on the job, sir? I know nobody can see that. I do at this point at. Tell me years, man. I'm not Dennis. I can't do math.
28.
30?
30. One of you is way off in your math by a few years. I can get Dennis back up. But you're here right now. Are you going to learn something over today and tomorrow? Exactly. So we have to always look for how it can be better. As far as motivating guys, it's consistency. And you'll hear me talk about this. I'm a huge believer in consistency. If we're consistent with our training programs, we're going to win every single time. But I can't drill like a beast one day and then take 3 months off and go, oh, by the way, we're going to drill today. And that's your typical training programs. And I'll show you a system of how we'll kind of do that tomorrow. But We've got to be consistent in our training and find everybody. And I'll do this tomorrow, but I'll sit just for the show real quick. Tell me one weakness. One weakness. Yeah, no, the guy behind you too. One weakness. All right, no, give me a fire ground, a skill weakness, bro. All right, I'll come back to you. Give me a skill weakness. I know, Marty, you got a couple of them. Search. Skill weakness. Search. Pump up. Dennis, we got a guy for you. Oh, I can fix that shit tomorrow. Don't look at the Romagus videos. They'll screw you up. Everybody in this room's got a weakness. I am still weak with tools. You hand me a saw with no blade on it, I will still manage a way to cut your leg off. I'm just not that guy, but I'm always trying to find new ways. The electric, I'm kind of a little bit better with the battery shit. I feel a little more confident with that. But we can be better. All of us have weaknesses. Give me a weakness. High-rise ops. Education. All of us have our weaknesses, but if we're not trying to get better, then we're going to remain weak. It's not that complicated. And all of us just admitting we have weaknesses will move us in the right direction.
But here's the key to that. If you've got a good officer, that good officer knows that too. And that good officer assigns you to your capabilities. And he's going to know someone else that said, we all can't be great at everything. And that comes from a good officer. And that for you officers in the room, you got to get out there and train with the guys. It's a team sport. So if you're not good in pump ops, well, then this guy may be good in pump ops, so you put that guy in pump ops, right? So that comes from good leadership in the fire station and being involved. An officer can't sit in his room with the door closed and know the capabilities of his crew or her crew. We've got to get out there and we got to be involved, and then we can fix it. We can bring everybody up.
Nice. Both of you, absolutely crushing. For both, this one comes anonymous, has another question. When doing training, what do you think is the most important thing you are teaching younger firefighters? The most important thing.
I'll give you my opinion. I definitely want to hear Mo's. My true opinion, the most important thing we teach is that minimum standards equal minimum results. And if we're only training to the BS Firefighter 1 standard, guess what I got at a fire scene? BS minimum Firefighter 1 standards. So I really focus on not being, I understand the concept. I really get it. I know a lot of fire departments, a lot of chiefs, a lot of books have been written about this, about back to basics, back to basics, back to basics. I like to rather us look at, let's master the basics, because name one fire you're not using basic skill sets on. Getting your turnout gear, is that a basic or advanced skill?
Basic.
Basic. Stretching one hand line to a car fire, basic or advanced? We should be masters at those type of skills. So my new guys always worked on mastering. I don't want you to be good. I want you to be great at the basics. Then we can move forward.
I agree. I don't believe in minimum standards whatsoever. If we're a minimum standard fire department, we're a failure. When people calls 911, they want the best we have to offer to show up. They want us to be skilled in whatever their emergency is. And if we go with minimum standards, we fail. I know the academies a lot of times will send you out with minimum standards, and that's where we take them. We make them advanced, like he said. We have to be good at everything, and we don't have the opportunity to not be good. But I think one thing too I like to teach young people is they must care about us all, because you know what, you can make that first fire. And we've experienced in the Houston Fire Department, sadly, your first fire could be your last. You could have a fatality fire on that first fire. So we've got to get back to the importance of how dangerous this job is.
No?
Sir? Every time. I don't know if you heard Chief, and I pushed him. I got cold chills when he said it, because I tell people all the time, when you put your babies to bed at night, we're the watchers.
Oh, yeah.
People can sleep good at night because we're on duty. And we have to be that person. I forget. Thanks.
No, beautiful. Beautiful. Give it up. Trying to keep up with them. Where we at? All right, we're 1 minute. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to say, but there's a lot of soft tosses, a lot of curveballs. I'm just saying. What kind of that? What refrigerator? I was trying to get
That's
Todd.
not me. That's got to be your question.
We're getting down there. There's one for Todd on. I want to hit this one real quick. So I want to say, Todd, why should first responders have a good understanding of patients with disabilities?
Oh yeah, that's a whole separate class by itself. But not only we protect so many diverse populations is our job, whether it's on the fire side, EMS side, and understanding when we talk about people with Down syndrome, understanding that we are coming in contact on a regular basis with people that are on the autism spectrum, and having that having a general understanding of how I'm going to communicate with somebody with autism or how I'm going to communicate with somebody with Down syndrome is huge for us. But it's also, again, one of those areas we do not train in. We do not train our firefighters on how to communicate with. How many of you actually have ever had a communications class? Just communicating one. What'd you have? Yeah. But how about just a general communication class, how we talk to one another, though? I mean, we don't even know how to talk to each other sometimes. So if we just get back to some general communication, it's going, I love what you just said, though, brother, about that kind of having those conversations are just as hard. But having conversations amongst each other, and this is what I love about these conferences, that we can have these open, wide-ass open conversations in some cases and disagree. Me and Romagus disagree about certain things. There's no doubt about it. And I disagree with certain things with Howard. Not so much with Howard, but because he doesn't really think that much. But me, Steve Robertson just had a disagreement about something that's going to be on the scrap with Ray McCormack coming up. But that's what makes this job great. That's how we learn. We got to be better than that. I didn't hear you, sir.
I'll make you go away.
All right, that's probably way true that you think faster than I do.
Beautiful. All right. There's no refrigerator. Sorry.
Nah, that question I saw that question like 2 hours ago, bro.
It got iced.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, you got something now?
I do.
Clyde's coming up. Go ahead and tell it. Todd,
So,
thank you, sir.
So we have to be careful in training no matter what. I was doing a training class at a abandoned psych ward in Arkansas. And so the city said we could burn, no lie. The city said we could burn in there. And so the night before, all the instructors went there. We set it on fire. Man, it was great. We went to eat. We couldn't believe they let us burn this big building. So the next morning, this big guy told me, said, hey, Mo, can we slide this barrel over here? Said, I think it'll bank down better, and it'll be a lot better for us. I'm like, hey, man, I'm pretty easy. Let's do it. And he goes, all right. He worked there, so I thought he had it, right? Well, we set the largest refrigerator in the world on fire, and I thought something happened. I didn't have an air pack. I didn't have it. Smoke was banked to the floor. I'm trying to figure out a way out, and I got this young kid with me who is there for his first burn. And he's saying, is this some kind of test? I'm like, no, man, you're getting ready to die. And no lie. So I'm a little bit panicked. I'm on the floor crawling, and he goes, are you kidding me, sir? I'm like, man, listen, me and you're getting ready to die. Well, two Philly rescue guys come and got me, and they didn't let me live it down, too, still to this day. So I got saved by Philly.
That is awesome.
I got pictures I'll show y'all later. Almost got killed in a training exercise in another state.
Refrigerator.
In a refrigerator.
Don't leave out the refrigerator part.
There was 2 Little Rock, Arkansas guys got burnt. Couple smoke inhalations. It was a big deal.
You can go. There's a camera. That's as close as I can get to posting it.
Get a chair so you can reach the camera. And you hold it up there. Oh, there you go. Email to him.
So I guess be careful with live fire
But no, I
training.
can't post it.
All right, you ready for
It's
the
Clyde time.
master?
It's time to ride with Clyde.
Time. Yeah, ride with Clyde. That's the funniest shit ever.
That's a hashtag.
I like that he does I guarantee he doesn't know what that hashtag shit means
Right.
either.
It's time to ride with
That
Clyde.
looks cool. Let me put a hashtag ride with me.
Thank you, Todd.
You need one while I'm up?
Are you leaving tonight?
No. Oh, that's why. Okay, I got it.
I got called out. I just said, "Are you leaving tonight?" He said, "Oh, that's why."
Yeah, I'll be good.
All right, this is the number one question of the night, and I'm throwing it at you two. How do you lead people who aren't motivated and open to learning? So, never heard
Throws
this
it to me first.
Have you ever had this question before? It's from Zach.
Yeah, how do you motivate people? I mean, I think everybody's a little different now. You know, we were motivated just out of sheer terror and intimidation, to be perfectly honest with you. We didn't want to suffer the wrath of what was coming, but I think there's a lot of ways you can motivate people. I always have been motivated just because it was like working with my dad. I just never wanted to disappoint him. I had so much respect for my leaders because of who the people they were and how they treated me and the relationships we had with them that I just didn't want to disappoint them, and I would die for them to do that. I'll be honest with you, I do at times, you know, it takes some intimidation to get people motivated, but I really would prefer to figure out what type of person you are and what motivates you. I want to encourage you. I would love for you to be successful and be an outstanding firefighter for me. And it takes building relationships with people and understanding where they're coming from and what they're about. Some people just are pieces of garbage and they need to go somewhere else. I'll be honest with you. But I hate that. I'd like to give you a huge chance and figure it out. And if it's education that you need, then we'll educate you. If you need to understand why we're there, then we're going to do that for you. But it takes time. If you're sitting in an office or whatever, just assuming that this is going to happen, it's not going to happen on its own. You have to. I don't trust any of these guys to my left. Sorry, it's gonna take some time on your part.
And you got to surround yourself with good people. If you take, and like I'll just use 68 on the B shift where I'm at, I have great officers, all great officers. These officers are top shelf officers. So that leads down to all the men and women that work with them are top shelf. So if you've got 30 or 40 good people, that one person's never going to win. And we've got to always remember that we cannot accept cowards and loads in the fire station because that's the two people that will get us killed. And if we have 16 or 18 good people in one, that one person usually comes up to their level or they leave. And it's okay if someone leaves. But I think surrounding yourself with good people is the success to motivating people.
And those good people bring good people. The more good people you get, the more good people come. Because a piece of garbage doesn't want to work for a bunch of go-getters. He just doesn't want to be there. So he's going to find something else to go do. Because there's plenty of places they can just go lay around and do nothing. But you have to bring people up to your standard. Don't ever lower your standard to them. Bring them up to you. And it takes work to do that. But you can do it. And once you get it there in that position, then it kind of self-maintains itself. And the guys will take care of it.
This one is all you sent me. All right. Sorry. Side note. Mo, question coming at you. If you found yourself in an elevator with a guy, what would you say to him?
Well, that actually happened. So I'll just say this as nicely as I can. When you're a district chief or you're a battalion chief, your number one goal is to protect the people that work with you. People above you, you don't care about. They have a job to do, and you have a job to do. And when they see you at fire department headquarters and you ask if they want to ride with you and they say no, you just they can take the next one. Ride by yourself, it's okay. But never sell your soul. As firefighters, we cannot sell our soul to get a position. So if there's any chiefs in here, you stick to your guns, and if those guys don't like you, they can't eat you and they can't change your birthday. Do what's right for the people you serve. That's
100%. Give it up. Okay. Anything to add to that?
Oh, no, I mean, Mo kills it. You know, that's what we're there for. I'm not here to make friends. I would love for us to be friends, but I'm here to represent my folks. And there's nothing that trickles down to them that I don't filter first. And I don't care what some of these other people think of me, because we've got a few priorities, and that's the people that work with us and the people that we serve. And that's it. And that's what we're there for. If it pisses you off, well, whatever. You know what I mean? You'll get over it. You'll get glad in the same pants you got mad in. So, and like he says, they can't eat you, because if they had, neither one of us would be sitting here right now.
It's like Chief said earlier, you know, we'll outlive them. They'll go somewhere else. It happens.
I
Where's
don't
our
think
tag?
I've worked with
Hold
a
up,
fire
where's
chief
tag?
that's been there longer than 4 years yet, and
Video
I've been there
feed died.
32.
All right.
Oh, I don't work for Howard's, but he don't care. I might, though. If he keeps dangling the carrot out there, I might be going.
Yep, you guys got shut down by. Oh, okay, we're back. All right, no, fair enough. Sorry, I love it. All right, next question. I love that, honestly. Clyde, tell us about your most memorable fire in your career as an engine captain at 67s.
This is a setup. If y'all don't know this, okay?
I don't know. I don't know.
No,
So-
this is all set up, and
I thought
they
it was-
wanted me to tell a story about 67s, and this was an interesting territory, and it's really pretty a long story, but it is pretty funny. You know, we went to the it was a motor vehicle accident, what it was, and this guy was inside the vehicle, and he kept hopping out and got underneath the vehicle and was just scurrying around. We found out he was on PCP, and this lady came up, and she basically started a riot because she was so afraid that Pookie was going to die in that ditch. And it went from a couple people to about 400 people out there in the street. And I was trying to maintain order and not get us all murdered out there. And when we finally got Pookie up out of the ditch after about 20 minutes of fighting with him and everything else, her famous line was, "Oh, hell, that ain't Pookie." And she walked off. It wasn't even her uncle like she thought it was. So it's a pretty good story, but it's about 20 minutes long. So that's the event. The fires, we just made lots of them, and they were a good time.
I'm not gonna lie, that made so many other questions that were on here make sense. All right, sorry. What do you do when you are shut down trying to make the positive changes in the department? And this is the most positive or most popular question asked tonight.
The administration can't shut you down. You're the leader of that district. You've got to realize it's not about you. It's about the men and women you serve with. And above everything else, it's about the citizens that we go. And if we have an administration that tries to shut us down, they can't do it. It's all about us. And they can't take our pride from us. They can't take your birthday, brother. And if they try to do it, you just work that much harder. And who are the officers in here?
Hands up.
It's up to us. There's no way administration should be able to tell us how to train, how to respond. Now, they can put out standard operating procedures, but you got to develop standard operating procedures for your district and your response area. That's got to be specific for you, and you've got to know, hey, you know what? We cut holes. Chiefs that don't like to cut holes, man, they can go work for the water department. I don't care. We cut holes. And you know there's some out there. We don't blue card. They try to tell us to blue card. You tell me one thing that the blue card does for a civilian that's burning in a building, and I'll start doing it. You can't do it. They're making money off our backs. And the administrations are stupid enough to buy into it. Administrations are stupid enough to say we don't cut holes. You know who you are. We don't need you in this service. We do right for the people inside of burning buildings. That's what we do. And if people don't want us to save lives, they're in the wrong business. You know, there's a reason they sit behind them big cherry desks, because they wasn't one of us. Bottom line, they say they're one of us. They wear our uniforms. They're not one of us. So you don't let them tell you how to train your people. You stay true.
Now, I will say, you know, I agree with Mo 100%, and I always do. And you hate to just carpet bomb all of them, right? There's some good chiefs out there. But
rare.
what he's
They're
saying
rare.
is
They
true.
are really rare.
Yeah, they are rare. I've only worked for a couple. But I'm telling you, you know, what he's saying is true. And what we've done is, you guys, I mean, if you pay any attention to what's going on, you know, we get beat up pretty hard there in the city of Houston. And what it does is just creates my focus to become more and more narrow. District 8 Bravo is basically Clyde's fire department, and that's my boys and girls, right?
hell yeah.
So we're going to do everything we can to take care of them, and we're going to run that system the way it needs to be ran. And Mo and I, we work on the same shift in different neighborhoods, and his tactics and my tactics need to be able to fluctuate for what our demand is. Our responsibility is to create survivable space and search survivable space for fire victims. That's what it's for. That's what we do that no one else can do. And that's what we're going to continue to do. So sometimes you have to focus down and narrow down what you can actually control. If you're an engine captain, you know what you can control. You can control everything about that engine, and that's what you do. If you're a BC, then you can control that district. That's what you need to do. And encourage your people to know that you're there for them. And it's, again, all about relationships. If you don't have relationships and trust amongst your companies, then you're going to have problems. And that's where, to be honest with you, that's where we lose most of our faith in our command staff, is just the trust. We don't know where they're coming from, and we have no faith in their ability. Because guess what? At 4 o'clock in the morning, I've never seen one of them. On Christmas, when we closed down 27 engine and truck companies, there wasn't one of them riding one of those companies. They were at home with their family. When they refused to let us off on Christmas, they were at home with their family. None of them were at work. So we were there, and we were protecting citizens because that's what we do.
And the next time you guys are getting hammered by your command staff on doing something, you're at a command staff meeting and they're talking that, tell them to hold their breath, and you run through a scenario.
Nice.
I promise you, they're not going to last a minute or two. And that's what people in burning buildings are doing, and we forget. People die of asphyxiation. We don't burn people at buildings. They just die because they smother. You get them to hold their breath, and then it starts making them realize that, hey, you know, maybe these guys are doing what's right. That's why we drive fire trucks fast. That's why we have lights and sirens on them, is to get there fast. You know?
If you're trying to take the lights off the top of that truck as that door's going up, you're getting out of there pretty quick. And that's what you need to be doing. It's time to go.
That's right.
And we don't have any time to waste. The only time we can make up is once we get there, and that's where you need to be.
Get out the door like you're going somewhere important. And I want to say this, like if you work, I've never, well, I say that. We came down for Harvey, and I met some of your guys down there, and amazing the conditions you work in. But if you work for these two district chiefs, these two chiefs in general, how much are you protecting them? You know what I'm saying? So if you are in a position in the fire service to take care of people, take care of them, and they will take care of you.
100%.
Man. So, yeah, I got to say that. All right, where are we at? What are your thoughts? This one comes from Minnie Corley. I don't know who Minnie Corley is, but Minnie Corley exists. Is there a...
You need to send a picture of Minnie Corley. We need to see that.
We got to see the picture of Minnie Corley. What are your thoughts?
You always got to go for the hair.
To share the love that we have for the fire service with our newer members. Share the love of the fire service with our newer members.
You got to be willing to tell them. I love the fire service. Anybody knows me, and I know you guys don't know me.
Picked on my hair.
I love the fire department. The fire department outside my family is the only thing I have in life. I have no friends that are not firemen. I live in a house bought by the fire department. I drive a vehicle bought by the fire department. I have clothes bought by the fire department. I love the fire department. It is a gift from God that I have. And I don't care where you work at in the fire department. You can be over the maintenance division. You can be over the records division. I love you because you're in the fire department. And we've all got to be that. And I tell you something else. We call each other brother and we call each other sister. We've got to live to that. If you're driving down the road and you see a fire department sticker on somebody's car and they're broke down, you better help them. That's the brotherhood. And we've got to get back to that. And you know what? If people don't want to buy in that brotherhood, we got to get rid of them. We're in this together. And we say that we would die for you, we got to mean that. And, you know, I had an old captain, and I'm not going to say his name because he asked me to never tell the story, but I'm going to tell the story. Houston firemen will know there's a roof collapse on some guys, and we was looking for this guy for several minutes. And finally, my old captain found him, and he is getting ready to leave, and he said, man, don't leave me. And he said, man, I got to go get a line and protect us, and he had a bunch of plaster laying on top of him. And, he said, man, don't leave me. And he said he looked up, and he saw the fire rolling across, and he'd been in the fire department about 30 years now, and he said, I knew what it was like to die with somebody. I mean, that's pretty deep. If you know that you were going to do it, and he said, what I did was, he said, I sat there with him, and he said, I knew if he was going to die, I was going to die. That's the fire service. And, there's some girls in here. Doesn't matter what color we are, doesn't matter what race we are. We're brothers and sisters in this job, and we have to treat it like that. And you have to not be afraid to say that I love you and that you mean it and you take care of them. And we got to get away from a side job on helping guys out. I need a rider. We don't charge that guy. We help that guy. That's the brotherhood. I don't know whenever it ever became a side job.
Yeah, I mean, this new generation that you gotta help them understand what it's about, right? So many people are self-centered and they're so concerned about themselves. Put your cell phones down. Get rid of the cell phone at the kitchen table. Turn the TV off and make people talk to each other, because you have to become family, and we are family, and there's no brotherhood like this. He and I spent a couple days with guys from all over the country, and I'd never met them in my life, but I loved them, and we shared stories together and tragedies together, and you just feel so connected with them, and it's because there's just something different about us, and you have to share that with them. A lot of these new folks have never experienced that. They've never had that kind of upbringing. They never have experienced any of that. But if you show passion and genuine care for people, and you share your heart with them, they will buy into that, and they will also become that person. That you're never going to meet anybody more genuine than Mo Davis. All right? And I am so proud to be sitting next to this guy. This is one of my true brothers, and I love him to death. And I have always wanted to do this. So this is a thrill to me, but we're cut from the same cloth. We're the same people. And when I die, he'll be there. And when he dies, I'll be there. There's no doubt in my mind.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Hell yeah. Give it up. Bring it. And then someone asked the question, so I wanted to ask it because this is the one that made so much sense. Clyde, have you ever been able to locate Pookie? Or is he still missing in action?
Well, I don't know whatever happened to Pookie. He's still up under the car or on every other street corner is what Mo said. It's great places, man. I always said if you could find a fire station that's surrounded with Constantine wire, that's the place you want to be, because that's where shit goes down, man. If you can't lock your truck up and they don't steal it about every other week, hey, you're not working as far as I'm concerned. So that's where Mo and I have always really searched out to be. Where people are in trouble and don't have a lot of money, man, lots of fires. And it's been a blessing to me. I hate to say that, but in our world, that's a blessing, right? The more we can do, the better off we are.
All right, throwing this one at Mo. As Chief Jacob Johnson comes up, how do you keep District 68 to the level of performance that y'all have even during all the trying times?
Good officers. I don't micromanage at all. We got Caballero, Crecci, Schroeder, Calmario, Novicki, Cal Medina, and I just cut the chains off of them. And when you cut the chains off of them, you better hold on, because those guys know what they want.
Right.
Those guys know what they do, and everybody knows it goes back. You'll see tomorrow one of my slides that says about them. Every one of these officers, and man, we got good senior men there. We got senior guys that's got multiple years, and they're taking a beating every day. Our district probably runs maybe 200 or 300 runs a day. If you take every apparatus, these guys are getting their teeth kicked in every day. But every time they go to work, we're probably going to make a fire, and these guys are going to perform well on a fire. They're going to critique each other, and Frank and I usually just get to sit back and watch greatness. I know everybody thinks theirs is best, but I have to give it all to the captains. You cut the chains off. If there's any chiefs in here, you cut the chains off them captains. and you don't micromanage them, you're going to see great things happen in your district. And that's what we do. And I think it works great.
I don't
y'all.
think there's gonna be a better answer than that, man.
Thank y'all.
Good job.
No, Clyde's good. Thank you. Have you ever met Todd Edwards? Todd Edwards, his motto is just one more.
Just one more.
Yeah. And I've never said no. That's the whole problem with me.
Oh man.
Just what Mo was saying. I mean, you have to set expectation. Like, what do you expect? When I first got to my district, it looked like somebody kicked a fire ant bed every time we made a fire because there was firemen hanging off of gutters and everything else. They were out to do work, but it didn't matter if it needed to be done or not. They were going to rip the house to shreds. And I don't work that way. I like a little more organization than that. But we set expectations, and once you do that, man, let them go to work, and they will just surprise you at what they can do. It's the micromanagers that have so much trouble, and that's usually from their insecurity. You got to get comfortable with what you're doing and just let people work.
Beautiful. Go. Don't hold back. I don't know. Joe M. asked, can Clyde tell the story of Rodney?
Oh, man, y'all are killing me with
Very
stories.
moving story that solidifies the brotherhood of the fire service. I don't know the story. I'm just asking.
Y'all are going to kill me on this one. So the older I get, the softer I get. And I told y'all earlier when my girls were born, you know, they ruined me. They brought my heart to the surface. So
Hell yeah.
Rodney was a young man that I'll have to admit, I don't know who the first one that met him was, but he was about 8 years old, and he was a little boy in the 3rd Ward. And the one I know, one of the first ones that met him was Kevin Story, if you know him, Captain Story. And I have a picture of him walking up to the fire truck, and he had Captain Story's helmet on. And Captain Story is probably one of the hardest people you'd ever meet on the outside. He was rough and gruff, and it took my ICT 2 years just to get him to say good morning to him. And he tried every single day. It was his goal to get Captain Story to smile and say good morning. And that took over 24 months to make that happen. But he was just a little boy that was fascinated by the fire service and fire trucks. And he would hang around and the fire stations, and he would just appear. And he went to multiple fire stations. He went to 46s when Mo was there. He'd go to 68s. He'd go to 25s. He knew where all these fire stations were, and he would travel on the Metro bus to get there. When I met him, he was about, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 11. And it was just this little boy at the fire station, and of course that's against every regulation that we have. But he would come in, and when I first met him, I hadn't been in a district but a day or two, and he started quizzing me on what was on the ladder truck. And I thought, who's this little smart aleck, you know? Because I don't remember what's in that front right compartment. I don't know. I think it's the saws, but that little smart aleck knew exactly what was in there. And they were all laughing. Of course, the guys had set me up. But what he is he's a little boy that's basically homeless, and he had no place to go. And but he took a shine into the firefighters, and the firefighters took a shine into him. And he would bring his homework in, and they would sit on the couches and do math, and they would teach him how to read. And it shocked me because he'd be at the station at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, Rodney, what are you doing? Where do you go home? And he said, well, I'm going to go to my auntie's house. I said, how you going to get there? He said, well, I ride the bus. I wouldn't have let my daughter go anywhere in the city of Houston on a bus at 11 years old, but he would get on the bus and he would go to his auntie's house. And then he got to where he would just call me Chief or Gordon. Hey, Gordon. And then he would say, well, you take me home. I said, yeah, I'll take you home. Where you want to go? And we'd go between houses. And then as we started to grow and create a relationship, he would tell me that he would sneak into his auntie's house from the window because she didn't want him there. And he would sleep until morning, but he would jump up before she would get up and crawl back out the window and leave. And he just became part of my family. And the guys, I can't tell you how many guys have taken care of him, but the Houston firefighters have raised that young man. And now we've become so close. He usually only calls me Gordon because he don't want to get too close to me, but he called me Dad once. But he does call my wife Mom every single day, and he's probably talked to her 5 times today. He's 19 years old, and I've offered to bring him to my house to live, but he just don't fit in where I live. He's got ADHD so bad he can't just chill out in the country, to be honest with you. But he's 19 years old. He failed 4 different times. He went to juvenile. I was the only one there in the court for him. His family wasn't there, and it has nothing to do with me. It just has to do with love. And he's 19 years old. He's going to graduate next year and go in the United States Navy. And I couldn't be more proud of him, even more than my own daughter, and I love her to death. But that young man has been homeless since basically he was 9 years old. And the Houston firefighters in general, have cared for that little fella. And if you find those kids, they're out there, all you have to do is show kindness to them, because it has changed his life. He should be, everybody in his family is a felon. Everybody. I don't know how many people he's watched die. His cousin shot his father. It's an amazing story, and there's lots of little people out there like that, and all they need is kindness and love, and it has completely changed this boy's life, and he's going to be a huge impact on this world. And it's just because guys gave a crap about him. And, I'm just super proud of him. He's a good kid. Watch out.
What do you got?
Oh, that's my boys.
100%. I don't know how to follow up that. I don't even know if there's anything that can even match it.
Oh, he'll be super stoked. I'll have to tell him to listen, because he'll be like, oh, man, Gordon said something about me today. Yeah. He's so funny. Like, he knows everything about the fire department. We get the rookies to go talk to Rodney and have him quiz them what's on the bumper, because he knows more than anybody in the fire department probably.
All right. Here's where we're at. That was badass, period. We can end it right there, and it's great. We've also got everybody still standing back here, and we got microphones, and we got 10 questions left. So what I want to do is just say, I'm just going to plow through the questions. No curating or nothing, just top to bottom. Whoever wants to grab a mic and answer it, let's do it. If you guys are down, let's do it. Yes? Okay. Get that bread. From Anonymous. How do you combat higher officers who have burned out? Come on up here. Panel, come on up. How do you combat higher officers who have burned out and are now obstacles to training, driving your department in the right direction as a lower-ranking firefighter? You got the mic. Go.
Well, I can tell you this: if you're burned out on this job, you don't deserve this job, and this job don't deserve you.
Nice.
So
nice.
We all see the same shit. It doesn't matter if you work for a big fire department, small fire department, medium fire department, out in a rural area or an urban area. We all see the same bad things. And what I can say is that for me personally, I've held my dead daughter, and I've looked at her eyes, and I've prayed for her to wake up, and I've prayed for her to breathe. And I have looked at kids in car accidents and on SIDS kids and everything else, and I've thought the same thing: please wake up and please breathe. And when you go through something like that, you can't be burned out.
Grab a chair. Grab a chair.
You can't be burned out. Everything for a reason happens, right? And at the end of the day, we are here because God chose us, and I fully believe that. We are warriors to the American citizen because God chose us to put us in these positions. And we have to do right by God, and we have to do right by the human beings that we serve, by the citizens that we serve, to provide the most excellent care that we can. Whether that's an EMS call that we don't want to be on, or whether it's a fire where we are their last hope, we are first string. There's no second string coming. And so if you're burned out, quit. If you're burned out, leave. We don't need you. We don't want you. you're not here. So if you're burned out and you're an obstacle to training, my suggestion to you is to please retire.
Next one. Now, whoever grabs it. I'm reading them in order. I'm not curating or nothing. Potential wind-driven fire tactics. How would you build your attack package? 3 engines, 1 truck, 1 C. All right, for this. I don't count Chiefs. The department does not allow vert vent. Windy day, fire hasn't vented.
Two car engine.
Hey, we've always had fire. We've always had wind. Don't make it a big deal. If it's blowing on you, go around to the burn side. And we got to get back to cutting holes. So it's that simple. But don't get caught up in, the wind's blowing. Because we've always had fire, we've always had wind, and we just started calling them wind-driven fires a few years ago. So if you can't get in, it's blowing on you, go around somewhere else. In high-rise fires, if you got a busted window and you got an open door and you open it up down at the end of the hall and it's blowing down that way, just go to the other stairwell. Keep it simple. And put a lot of water on it.
Can I add something right before Dennis goes?
Yeah.
I really, before Dennis goes, I just have a question. If the wind's at your back, what's the fucking problem? Why is wind a problem? The location of the wind is the issue. It doesn't matter what the speed is, what the direction, any of that. The location of the wind is the problem. If it's at your back, you have no issue. We basically have a fire that's going to be easy. My deal with wind-driven fires and what would I do is if the wind is in a bad direction, I'd attack it head on. I would attack the fire, just like Dennis talked about today, in a transitional attack, if you want to call it that. But my deal is if we're going to make a transitional attack, if I attack it from a window and I have the wind blowing in a manner that it's not good for the incident, once I make knockdown, I enter that window and finish it off. And yes, we progress to the hallway to make sure that there's no victims, but put yourself in the position of the wind to be at your advantage. Use the wind to your advantage. The wind's not a problem if we use it to be good for us. So I just want to add that.
I got it.
Now Dennis can.
Well, I agree that wind's been around forever. It's been made more of a big deal over the last couple decades. And if something that analytically I thought about is if wind's been around forever, why did they start writing about it so much in the last 3 decades? And I would say, if you're a motorhead in here, or you know what a forced induction engine is, so like a turbocharged diesel, you can put a big turbocharger on a diesel, but if you don't put bigger injectors in it, you ain't gonna get any more horsepower. So I think because the plastic-laden fuel model has twice the BTUs per pound, wind's always existed, but wind-driven fires now are more difficult because you got the big injectors, right? So I think the primary mistake is not doing what Howard said, not having a good wind survey. So I think the time you get in trouble in wind-driven fires is when you fail to recognize early on that it is wind-driven. So if you have a 2-story house or 1-story house and you can go to all 360 sides of it and it's a wind-driven fire, there is no reason to fail at those fires. You can enter with the wind at your back, and it should be technically an easy fire. Don Rumsfeld during the Gulf War, when troops started getting blown up by IEDs and the Humvees weren't up armored and we didn't have MRAPs and people were dying, and he was taking heat. He said, "You don't go to the war with the army you wish for. You go to war with the army you have." So departments that have high-rise fires and that kind of infrastructure, they need to own floor-below nozzles. They need to have KO curtains. They need to do the training. They need to know not to attack from a smoke stairwell. And if in Hawaii, the Honolulu Fire Department took a lot of heat for the Marco Polo fire. And, a lot of people that mentored me was like, man, why'd they come out of a smoke stairwell? So I actually had the privilege of going there and looking at the 3 stairwells. Well, it's a tropical city. All 3 stairwells are smoke towers. Now what are you going to do, bitch? they're all smoke towers. So, you know, I talked to a guy in the Toronto Fire Department that's on the high-rise thing, and we were talking about maybe you could control the door that you enter the hallway through. Maybe you control the exhaust. Well, it's a smoke tower. It's a steel door. How do you do that? So they messed around with cutting a notch in the door and then putting the hose line through, and then you don't have a vent at your back, right? So I think if you're going to a high-rise fire, there has to be a company assigned to do a wind survey. It's a mandatory. Then you have to have plans like breaching, floor below nozzles, KO curtains, those things, right? So a lot of this is spec and layout. If you don't have the tools, you can't get it done. If you don't have the knowledge and training. So I think the true risk is not identifying that it's a wind impacted fire early on. If it is wind impacted early on and you've done the training and you've done the research, you should still be successful. So, Scott Thompson in Texas, the Colony Fire Department, they had a member get burned, very competent member get burned in a house fire, okay? And they pulled up, they went in the Alpha side, they went in the front door, it was a hallway, they got jammed up and he was stuck in the hallway. Flowing a 7/8 inch line, they showed us pictures of his gear at H-Rock, and they go, it was steam coming back on him, and the gear was deformed. And I go, steam doesn't deform gears, right? Gear, that was heavy heat. They're sneaky, Scott's sneaky. He talked to me separate, then he went and talked to Keith. Keith had the same answer, right? Trust but verify. So I asked Scott Thompson, I said, okay, it's a single family house that's on fire. You have a mayday, the guy's in the hallway. Where's the backup line go? Is it an exterior line or is it an interior line? And, you know, the guys that we were talking to, he's like, well, we get a line right next to him, you know, get him out. And I said, no, that's not the answer. The answer is to go to the Charlie side where the wind impact it was and put the line on the Charlie side. A real line would probably put out the room that was ahead of them that was on fire, right? So this is a lot of knowledge and understanding stuff. It's not just about being cavalier. But I will tell you this. I think wind-impacted fire is written more about now because wind is blowing on a fuel that has twice the BTU per pound. I've read a lot of books, and they don't talk much about wind impact pre-1970. It took a lot more wind to create the same bad conditions. It doesn't take much wind now to make a hellacious fire. You got those big injectors.
I'd add, too, is something for simple-minded people like myself and you guys, not Dennis, is when you pull out of your station, if those flags are moving, you all have flags at your fire station. For me, they're not there because I'm patriotic. They're there because I can tell when I pull out of my station, if the flags are moving, we have enough wind to create that wind condition. And that's where that size up starts that he's talking about. Your wind evaluation starts when I'm pulling out of the station. If those flags are moving, I know I have enough wind to create a problem. And I say it over the radio. I don't know if, were you at that fire a few weeks ago? I said it over the radio. All units responding, we have a wind-driven fire. Just so everybody knows coming in. Key them into the incident and understand that I've sized this up and I've identified this problem. Luckily for us in the beginning, the wind was to our advantage. But just because we evaluated that in the beginning, it changed through the incident. They were mid-attack when the wind changed directions at the same speed and velocity and changed the entire condition of the fire. So we decided to cut a hole. Was vertical ventilation a part of that wind-driven fire? We cut a hole on the opposite side of the building to create an advantage to us with the wind condition. The fire was at the back on an add-on. The house ran this way. They cut a hole with the wind blowing into the hole to create an issue where the wind was blowing into the hole and into the fire and keeping it into an area of the structure because it changed directions. But when you leave your station, you can identify it immediately. Just look at the flags moving. Something to add to that.
Love it. No, I'm not cutting anything off.
Let me hold on.
Yes, go.
So I'm talking about like a potential wind-driven fire similar to the fire in Houston when they lost the officer and the firefighter.
Arlo and Vaughn.
Right? Yeah. The windows gave while they were inside, attacking from the windward side would have opened the rest of the building up to a wind-driven fire if the problem still closed.
That hole was cut in the wrong place.
Well, For that particular fire you're talking about, it's Texas, right? So it's 85 degrees and a southeast wind at 15, and 3 minutes later it's 52 degrees and a northwest wind at 40. And that was kind of the situation there. That the officers on that roof were outstanding. They cut the hole, and it was the NIOSH, whatever. It was a real low. It was a ranch style with a real low attic, and that fire was cut in the right place for the conditions they had. And then the wind switched and basically blowtorched them, just blew down on top of them. There's no place for all that energy to go. The attic and the tallest point was about 3 feet. So it just came down on top of them.
Yeah, to clarify, the officer didn't cut the hole in the wrong spot. The hole
Mike.
ended up being in the wrong spot.
Right.
Wind changed. Wind changed.
You can't cut holes. So you'll go under the roof, but you won't go on the roof.
I think
Okay.
the one thing about vertical ventilation, when you look at it, it's the safest ventilation in a wind-driven condition, right? Because it doesn't offer a perfectly perpendicular surface to the direction of the wind. And in Oakland, my senior truck captain, when I was on a truck, and the driver, you look at the peak of the roof, and you would always cut the hole on the leeward side. I've never heard an example of where you would intentionally cut it on the windward side. That's new to me. It probably was a particular case where they were trying to keep the fire where it is. But in our books, if you're on the roof and you're doing your sides up for a hole, and we're a pretty windy city, on the bay there, and we have onshore winds and offshore winds depending on the time of the day. You would want to take particular attention to cut it on the leeward side, because you wouldn't want to have smoke and heat pushed back in. But horizontal ventilation is one of those practices on the fire ground that can make conditions much worse. If somebody doesn't realize the wind's at their back and they take a couple windows, and after that they realize the wind's at their back, there's really no going back there. So what can you do to prevent serious injury or death if a mistake is made on the fire ground? It's copious, wet, flowing advances, right? If you have flowed appropriate amounts of water towards a seat and the vent profile changes for the negative, will it be perfect? No, but it'd be sure the heck a lot better if you didn't flow. Then if you're the guy at the front door and you're the one that's been humping line back and forth, and all of a sudden your position gets worse, let's say you're at the front door and you start feeling heat. Is that normal? The answer is no, right? The front door shouldn't become a unidirectional exhaust with high heat. That's a moment as the doorman or door control, you should what? You're the exhaust. So during the Back Bay fire, post Back Bay fire, that was a year or two before they sat the board for the fire attack study. Some of us were like, I wonder what would have happened if someone had gone up there and controlled the door or cut the bottom foot off the door. Would have the two trap members been able to make it up the stairs?
Is that Beacon Street?
Yeah, it's Beacon Street.
Yeah.
Now, there's a whole nother stairwell and a bunch of floors above that. And I've always thought, like, well, it would still be wind driven up. But if no windows were open above or all the apartment doors are closed, that would be at equal pressure. So maybe shutting the front door would have made a huge difference at that fire, because they were on the radio a long time. Kennedy and his Walsh, Lieutenant Walsh and Firefighter Kennedy, they were trapped in there. They were moving back and forth, up and down. They just couldn't get up the stairs, right? So I would say flow water, try to control the exhaust side of the flow path, you know what I mean? But ultimately, be careful when you're changing vent profile in a horizontal nature when there's wind on the fire ground. I would almost say if there's heavy wind impact, you should hold off doing horizontal ventilation. Be more careful about it. If the wind's switching, and the vertical vent is much safer to do. right? Because you're creating a vent high and an intake low. So if I worked at your fire department, I would say, how do we provide ventilation in a wind-driven condition? And right now the answer is you can't.
Right.
Right?
All right. And final question on the thing. What you got?
Oh, I just want to give me. I'll give you some more details of that fire.
Fair?
Kyle question.
I want to add to
No.
Ah,
I broke.
not common to cut a hole with a wind blowing in it. Also not common for that same fire we cut a hole in a double wide trailer. So it was very incident driven.
You want it right now or no? All right, smoothbore. This is the final question of the evening for the panel. Smoothbore versus fog. It is the big social media debate. Obviously. Obviously, smoothbore is the winner compared to fog. I think everybody agrees on smoothbore is the winner versus fog. But at the end of the day, 15 16ths, 7/8, and why? And so we got a lot of people to talk about this.
I ran a smoothbore before Kyle, so let me have that. I instituted the smoothbore in our organization, and we started with the 15/16s. And when you evaluate the weakest member of your organization, may be on the fire that you're saying that you could handle, and you're not on duty that day, the 7/8 was the winner. When you talk about nozzle reaction and the needed flow for the residential structure fire, the 7/8 was the winner to be able to be handled by every member in our organization. Kyle can go into the details with smoothbore cartel or whatever y'all want, but I'm just telling you from the scenario of evaluating members and strengths and weaknesses of an organization, the 7/8 was the winner for needed flow and nozzle reaction for everybody in the organization to be able to handle. With that said, I've never turned down a single fire because of what was on the end of a hose line. Not once. 100 PSI, 75 PSI, 15/16, 7/8. I've never walked up, picked up a hose line, and said, fuck it, I'm not doing it because of what's on here. So.
The best nozzle's the what? The one in my hand, right? Thank you, Eric Hankins. Now you can get some actual information. But I will tell Kyle that the fog nozzle's the thinking man's nozzle. He always tells me how simple the smoothbore was. I always poke the bear.
That's all right. That's all right. The thinking man's not. Vincent Dunn said the same thing to me. To be honest with you. Yeah. It's the thinking man's nozzle. So the only thing I want my guys to think about is whether it's open or closed. Not whether they need to roll it left or right. I do like Dennis's idea of having the actual locking pattern on it to where you have to actually physically do something to the nozzle to move it from straight stream.
Strangely, that's how they used to make them.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Nozzle made in 1950.
For sure. For the 15/16 7/8 debate, it's an old one and one that's pretty wore out. I would say it comes down to nozzle reaction and your people's abilities. If you ride a 4-man engine and you've got, linebackers on your crew, the 15/16 isn't a problem for a lot of people, but you're still within that 60 to 70 range. With the good technique, the 15/16 can be pushed just as easy as the 7/8. But you got to ask yourself, do you work with people that are going to be able to put in the reps and the time and the effort that it takes to be great at both, So we're talking about, 9 pounds of nozzle reaction, essentially with the difference. But if my bench press max is 300 and you put 309 on the bar, the shit ain't going up. I'm just saying, but I mean, yeah, 59 to 69, 10 pounds, yeah, grizzly bear, yeah. But yeah, it comes down to nozzle reaction and your people's abilities. As for the flow, 160 between 185. If 15 gallons is the difference between putting fire out and you not putting fire out, you ain't putting water in the right spot. So my personal opinion. But 7/8 is definitely my choice because of the abilities around the gambit of the fire service, being able to move it, have it open and move it forward without any huge problems. but nozzle reaction is really what it comes down to. You know, I don't really see the big, huge deal. I think the biggest battle is low pressure. You know, low pressure versus high pressure. So, I mean, if you can win that battle, you know, 69 versus 59, it's not really a huge deal to me. You know, so I take that over 100 any day.
Hell yeah. Anything else?
So I don't have.
Do it.
There we
Dennis?
go. So I don't have anything on nozzles, right? Because the only reason I like engine work is because of that man and everybody that gave him the red pill. So, but here's my thing, right? I don't deserve to be up here tonight, and I say that with a lot of humbleness, and I say that with a lot of honor that I'm even able to sit amongst everybody that y'all have heard from tonight. And I say that because growing up, I always wanted to be a Houston fireman. And I know that Houston firemen are taking a licking right now. And I know that Houston firemen are still showing up, and they're still making grabs, and they're still changing the world, and they're still making a difference. And for all of you who are in Texas, if you're a Texas fireman and you don't aspire to perform like a good Houston fireman, then you are a disservice to the fire department. I'm telling you that now. Because when I go to sleep at night, and I know that my life and my family's life depends on somebody, I want District 19, District 31, District 26, District 46, 68, 8, and 28 to show up to my house without any question. And so if there's ever an opportunity for y'all to support the men and women of the Houston Fire Department, y'all support them because they deserve it. They are trendsetters amongst our job. They are trendsetters amongst the service. We've learned a lot from them, good and bad. And we are who we are today in Southeast Texas because of Houston Fire Department. So I'm grateful to be sitting amongst them. I thank y'all for inviting me and everybody else here tonight. You know, y'all raise your glass, have a nice night, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.
I can't finish. Hell yeah. No, everybody. Hey, get the panel. Get the panel up here. Oh, you got, no, get it up. Stand up. Get up here. Mo's coming up. Everybody get up here. Finish it out strong. The only reason I gave Kyle a hug is I thought he was leaving. All right. Here it is to everybody here. Thank you guys for being a part of this. I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning. Stay safe out there. Enjoy. About to be.
Hey, did you get a picture, Bob? Yes.